Chapter 1031. It was unknown how many resources the three tribes had hidden away, enough for them to survive for millions of years. At this moment, they had to move everything away. Tens of thousands of spatial rings were filled, but Yi Qinghan's spatial ring was empty. In the end, he helped them store some of the resources, and the rest were taken away by Li Feng and the others. Some of the trash resources were abandoned, otherwise there wouldn't be enough spatial rings. Spatial rings couldn't be stored in spatial rings, so the tens of thousands of spatial rings were carried by the experts. If they couldn't carry all of them, they would pack them up. They tied up several beast skins, forming a large bag full of spatial rings. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All the flying beasts were mobilized. The god-slaying eagle and fire phoenix spread their wings, each leading a group of people in preparation for the migration. Tens of thousands of people migrating together was quite a spectacular sight, but the pitch-black abyss world was too dangerous. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to summon the fire dragon to tear through the darkness and lead the way. Swoosh! The golden-winged Pung followed closely behind Yi Qinghan. Countless beasts led the beast tamers away from their homes and began to rush towards the exit of the abyss world. A large number of experts gathered and tens of thousands of beasts fled. No one dared to ambush the crowd at this time. After crossing the swamp, they appeared on dry land. A large number of experts descended, riding the beasts and following closely behind the flying beast. Yi Qinghan was in the front, and Jiang Jingtian brought up the rear. After 8 days, they finally appeared at the exit. However, the entrance was occupied by a Kuelong. Although the giant Kuelong was chained up, it could still move freely within 10,000 miles. There was also a small Kuelong next to it. At this moment, it was looking down at them, causing their scalps to tingle. The giant Kuelong was at least 10,000 feet long. It occupied the entrance, blocking it. If they wanted to leave, they had to get its permission. Roar! The Kuelong let out a low roar. Its scorching sun-like eyes looked down at the crowd, extremely ferocious. Perhaps because it had been chained up for so many years, it had sunk into madness, and its killing intent was extremely dense. This Kuelong must have been left here by a paramount god. Its bones were chained, and there was no way to open them unless it was willing to give up its spine. Without its spine, it would be a crippled dragon, and its cultivation level would drop to the level of a high god. It would be easy to devour it, so it didn't dare to struggle free. It could only wait patiently. Yi Qinghan was certain that this ferocious beast was stronger than the demon wolf. It was definitely stronger than the serpent's cultivation level. Fighting it head-on would be suicide. Feed it with untamed beasts, Yi Qinghan suggested without hesitation. Without hesitation, the Jiang clan elder threw a large number of untamed ferocious beasts over. Roar! Without any hesitation, the Kuelong swallowed several hundred vicious beasts in one gulp. Countless vicious beasts wailed in agony, unable to break free from the Kuelong's grasp. Keep throwing, don't leave a single one behind, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. He didn't feel any heartache no matter how many vicious beasts died. These untamed vicious beasts were all extremely powerful and vigorous. Only a creature like the Kuelong could eat them, let alone so many at once. Very soon, the three tribes had thrown over 1,000 vicious beasts, all of which were swallowed by the Kuelong. However, the Kuelong still had no intention of giving way, although its attitude had softened quite a bit. Go catch some vicious beasts and feed it. Also leave some food for it. Yi Qinghan didn't want to force his way through. Instead, he wanted to find a shortcut and force the Kuelong to give way. The three clan elders personally took action. They pounced into the distance and caught any vicious beasts they saw, especially the stronger ones like birds and beasts. Everyone waited patiently without any signs of impatience. Half a day later, the three clan elders returned with thousands of vicious beasts. These vicious beasts were obviously not as strong as the untamed ones, but they had the advantage in numbers. Yi Qinghan ordered them to throw all of them over at once. Roar! Yi Qinghan's draconic aura began to erupt from his body. He had already sacrificed so many vicious beasts, so it wouldn't be right if he didn't give way. Dragons and Kuelong were both branches of the dragon race. Although the Kuelong didn't get along well with the Chaos Dragons, it didn't mean that it had bad relations with all other dragon races. At this moment, it stared at Yi Qinghan without any emotion. Yi Qinghan saw that the Kuelong was somewhat emotional. He cupped his fists and said, "Senior, we don't have any evil intentions. We only want to borrow your path. Please allow us to pass through. When I become stronger in the future, I will definitely come back to undo your shackles." The Kuelong's eyes shone brightly as it spoke in human language. It was a female's voice. "I hope you will keep your word." "Thank you, Senior." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly. He stared at the god-binding chains and asked curiously, "Senior, can you tell this junior who locked you here?" "The Chaos Dragon. It's a selfish bastard. It took advantage of my young age and suppressed me here. It wants me to suppress the Chaos races and prevent them from leaving the Abyss world. When I get out, I will crush its body." The Kuelong roared angrily. Its angry flames evaporated thousands of miles of snow. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. It was just as he thought. Apart from the over-gods, no one could suppress such a powerful vicious beast here. "The Chaos Dragon has already transformed into the Tao. Its body is gone," Yi Qinghan said. "Who can kill that bastard?" The Kuelong roared angrily. "Back then, the over-gods were in a chaotic battle. We lost all of them. Now, not a single over-god is left. The heavenly Tao has only just recovered," Yi Qinghan replied truthfully. "Roar!" The Kuelong wasn't angry. Instead, it was delighted. It roared with laughter. "It's good that these damned bastards are all dead. It's best if even their inheritances are all dead. None of them are good." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. It was probably the only one who dared to curse the over-gods. Moreover, it had cursed all of the over-gods. Zixian frowned. This Kuelong was insulting its ancestors. If any of the over-gods were still alive and knew about this, they definitely wouldn't let it off. Trouble comes from the mouth. No wonder it was suppressed here, Zixian muttered to himself. However, he didn't dare to say it out loud. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but laugh. He bowed and cupped his fists. "Senior, please make way and let us pass. Don't forget, if you can really become an over-god, come and save me from the Abyss world. Otherwise, I curse your descendants to not live past 1,000 years." The Kuelong roared angrily. Then, it swept up the little Kuelong and left the exit, returning to the deep pit. Yi Qinghan gestured for Li Feng and the others to lead the way. He stayed behind to stand guard, allowing everyone to leave the Abyss world first. Fortunately, the Kuelong didn't want to launch a sneak attack. More than 100,000 people rushed out of the Abyss world in batches and appeared outside Deep Heaven City. At the exit of the Abyss world, only Yi Qinghan and Jiang Jingtian were left. The two looked at each other and smiled faintly. "Do you want to enter the depths of the Abyss world again to explore?" Yi Qinghan asked calmly. "Coincidentally, I'm also interested in going in again. Back then, I was too weak and couldn't fight against a monster like the wolf demon. I only obtained a chaos holy treasure, which I used." Jiang Jingtian took off his mask and looked at Yi Qinghan. "Brother Yi, I have to go up and make arrangements for my clansmen. After that, we'll enter the depths of the Abyss world together." Chapter 1032. After discussing with Jiang Jingtian, Yi Qinghan spread his wings and soared into the clouds. Up above, it was still dark. Only after they were thousands of kilometers away did they see a faint light. Up above, the beast tamers couldn't withstand such intense light. Dark clouds roiled and lightning flashed, as if divine punishment was descending. However, they were much weaker than before. Their cultivation bases were at the level of the primal chaos era. Although their cultivation bases weren't high, they were solid enough. They also had their pets. The heavenly Tao approved of most people's cultivation bases, but there were bound to be some who failed. Before they could even get a foothold, lightning struck them from above. They were caught off guard, and their cultivation bases plummeted. Soon, they were beaten back to their original levels. This was only a small portion of the population. Baielu calmed them down and led them to Deep Heaven City. These 100,000 people were easy to deal with. Baielu wanted to keep them here and strengthen the 10,000 techniques uniting sect, but he didn't show it. Of course, he had to discuss this matter with Yi Qinghan and Jiang Jingtian. Yi Qinghan and Jiang Jingtian soared into the clouds, but as soon as the dark clouds scattered, they gathered again. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He knew that the heavenly Tao had its eyes on him. Could it be that the heavenly Tao was intelligent? What's going on? Why do I feel like the heavenly Tao is watching me? Jiang Jingtian frowned. These two had a good chance of becoming paramount gods. If the heavenly Tao wasn't watching them, who else could it be? Even Li Feng and Zixian were important targets. Perhaps the heavenly Tao was subconsciously forbidding experts from becoming paramount gods. When you have time, go ask the heavenly Tao. While you're at it, help me ask why it's watching me. Yi Qinghan chuckled evilly. Jiang Jingtian laughed, knowing that he was joking. Shaking his head, he said, "Forget it. It's not a good thing to talk to the heavenly Tao." Boom! Whoosh! Lightning and thunder struck at the same time, covering the clouds and surrounding the two of them. There was no way to dodge. Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate. If he couldn't dodge, then he didn't. He welcomed the lightning with both hands, allowing it to cleanse his body and refine it. Come on. It would be best if he could lower my cultivation level. I, on the other hand, hope that I can condense my godhood again. Yi Qinghan let out a low growl as he allowed the hundreds of lightning bolts to enter his body and lash out at his soul and godhead. However, his godhead and soul were extremely powerful. He could borrow the power of the heavenly punishment lightning to increase his battle prowess. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lightning bolts blotted out the sky and blasted into their bodies, trying to break the order of their bodies, shatter their giant god realm, and weaken their godhood. Yi Qinghan's clothes were all blasted to shreds. In the end, his divine power appeared and transformed into a divine robe. It fluttered amidst the lightning without any emotion. He allowed the lightning to temper him. Not only did his cultivation not fall, his physical body was strengthened by quite a bit. At first, Jiang Jingtian was incomparably strong. He didn't dodge, but his physical body wasn't as freakish as Yi Qinghan's. After the time it takes an incense stick to burn, he couldn't hold on any longer and was chased by lightning. He was in a very sorry state, just like Di Longtian. However, because he cared about his face, he didn't scream. That said, his strange posture was truly hilarious. The divine bird could sense that Yi Qinghan's quintessence blood was flowing more than 10 times faster than before. From that, one could see how much pressure Yi Qinghan was under, but he was still fighting with all his might. It was at this point that the money grubber looked on from the city wall. In order to show off, the divine bird flew out of its body, its golden crown exploding. It had the temperament of a spirit-devouring god parrot, but also the might of a god phoenix. Its hair turned golden red, and it looked very mighty. Are you trying to tease children with lightning? I'll show you what a true divine bird is like. The divine bird said proudly. However, the divine bird did not have much combat strength, and its cultivation level was not high either. At most, it was a half-step lord. With the boost of the god phoenix's quintessence blood, its cultivation level surpassed that of an ordinary half-step lord. The heavenly Tao's divine punishment dodged past it without attacking it at all, which made it feel even more smug. Ha ha ha! The divine bird laughed loudly as it shuttled through the lightning, as if it was provoking the heavenly Tao. The money grubber didn't know what was going on. She shouted excitedly, "Husband, you're awesome. You're so heroic. This divine bird has a wife now. Give me a female divine bird, and I'll definitely create a great divine bird clan." Ha ha! The divine bird laughed arrogantly. Yi Qinghan was completely speechless. He allowed the divine bird to fly around him as he focused on tempering his physical body and soul. The chaos divine power in his godhead flowed through his limbs and bones. Any slight injuries would be healed. His powerful soul grew stronger through the attacks, and he had an aura that looked down on all living beings. Boom, boom, boom. The frequency of the lightning attacks increased, and their power increased as well. Jiang Jingtian could not take it anymore, so he merged with the Qilin cub right away. Like an ancient demon, he roared into the sky and shattered more than 10 lightning bolts with a single punch. The Qilin's arms were exposed, and its hair was straight from the lightning strikes, piercing through space like steel needles. Roar! Yi Qinghan soared into the sky, transforming into a dragon and roaring. The lightning struck the dragon's body, causing dragon blood to splatter everywhere. Even the dragon's scales were shattered. Roar! The dragon hovered above the abyss, tempering its body. Whoosh! Another 2 huge bolts of lightning, comparable to a dragon's, came from the end of the wilderness and struck the divine bird as well. F***CK. The divine bird sensed the aura of death. It was surrounded in all directions, and it wanted to rush into the city. However, it was afraid of embarrassing itself, so it could only rush toward Yi Qinghan. In the end, it was struck by several bolts of lightning before it could even get halfway. Ouch! The divine bird's shrill cry rang through the clouds before it was drowned in the lightning. Boom! The lightning struck Yi Qinghan's dragon body, sending the heavenly dragon crashing into the ground. Bang! After Yi Qinghan landed, he returned to his original body. He was struck by the lightning until he saw stars and groaned in pain. After fighting for so long, his realm did not drop. The heavenly Tao seemed to be at odds with him. If his realm did not drop, it would not stop. Yi Qinghan had a stubborn temper. The heavenly Tao wanted to strike him down, but he was unwilling to do so. His body and soul were highly compatible, so there was no need for him to drop his realm and recultivate it. Now, improving together was the best choice. One wanted to attack, while the other wanted to defend. The heavenly Tao and Yi Qinghan were at odds. Jiang Jingtian was still fine. His body had fused with the Qilin cub, so his combat strength and soul were extremely powerful. In addition, he had grown up in the Abyss world, which was similar to the Chaos era. The heavenly Tao gradually recognized him and stopped attacking. Since the heavenly Tao stopped attacking Jiang Jingtian, it focused on dealing with Yi Qinghan. The dark clouds in the sky gathered again, and Yi Qinghan had a chance to catch his breath. The divine bird was blasted to smithereens. Its pure white feathers turned into crow feathers, and its entire body was black. At this moment it did not dare to be arrogant. It crawled on the ground and crawled toward Deep Heaven City. King Heavenly Tao. Are you blind? F***CK. This divine bird is in so much pain. Chapter 1033. The divine bird trembled as it crawled into Deep Heaven City. It finally regained its mobility, but its feathers had completely changed color. However, it didn't know that. It thought that the little money grubber didn't see its embarrassing appearance, so it flew up the city wall. Bah! Heavenly Tao's punishment? Can't even withstand a single blow. This divine bird's cultivation level didn't drop. The divine bird flew toward the little money grubber and spread its wings, wanting to catch it. The little money grubber turned around and saw the black divine bird. It thought that it was some kind of crow, so it raised its little claw and kicked it. What the hell is this? The little money grubber screamed, flapping its wings and flying toward the divine bird. Bang! The divine bird didn't expect the little money grubber, who had just called it hubby, to attack it with its claws and wings. It was immediately smashed off the city wall. Ouch! The divine bird screamed and crashed into the ground. It was dizzy from the impact. Where did this ugly crow come from? How dare you pretend to be my hubby? The little money grubber was furious. It rushed down, ready to continue teaching the divine bird a lesson. I'm your hubby. You're asking for death. My husband is handsome and has an imposing appearance. What the hell are you, a dark and swarthy thing? Bang, bang, bang. The little money grubber was furious. It grabbed a handful of the divine bird's feathers and threw it onto the city wall. Ouch! You be asterisk teasit boom, boom, boom. The little money grubber ignored it and continued to attack, beating the divine bird until it cried out in pain. Zixian, Li Feng, and the others rolled their eyes. It seemed that the little money grubber really didn't recognize the divine bird. They hurried forward to stop it. It really is the divine bird. Your hubby has been roasted by the lightning. The little money grubber was dumbfounded. Wasn't the divine bird hooting in the lightning? How did it get beaten up like this? The divine bird was dizzy from the beating and couldn't even stand properly. It curled up like a black ball, not daring to show its head, let alone fly. Seeing the divine bird's sorry state, the little money grubber shouted, "Hubby, who beat you up like this? Tell me and I'll avenge you." Only then did the divine bird sneak its head out. Looking at the little miser's serious face, it wanted to cry but had no tears. It wanted to curse, but it didn't dare to offend the little miser. It could only curse at the sky. It's the heavenly axiom. It's jealous that I'm so handsome that I've attracted the beautiful divine bird princess, so it blasted me black. My handsome appearance. The heavens were truly jealous of geniuses. This divine bird's pure white feathers have suffered. When Li Feng heard this, he felt a chill run down his spine. He turned around and left. This guy was really shameless. Zixian was even more straightforward. He said to the little money grubber, "This guy is not your husband. Keep fighting." The originally tense and cold atmosphere was immediately dispersed by a pair of lowly birds. Many people were speechless. Outside the city, Jiang Jingtian stood 300 meters away, far away from Yi Qinghan. Because he attracted darkness, he would definitely be attacked by lightning if he got close to him. In the end, even the little chaos beast and other divine beasts hiding in his body couldn't stand it and escaped into the city. Yi Qinghan looked at the dark clouds getting thicker and thicker, covering the sky and the sun. He couldn't help but frown. The heavenly axiom seemed to be endless. Does it want to help me lay a solid foundation or just get rid of me? Yi Qinghan was very confused. He couldn't understand what the heavenly axiom was thinking. That's not right. Jiang Jingtian's strength is about the same as mine. Why didn't it attack him but focused on attacking me instead? If it just didn't want me to advance, it shouldn't have allowed him to do so. Li Feng and Qingyu's cultivation isn't much inferior, so why did it target me? Yi Qinghan struggled in his heart. He was operating at high speed, trying to deduce the heavenly axiom's true purpose. However, the heavenly axiom was without a trace. No one could track its thoughts and purpose. Boom, boom, boom. Tens of millions of lightning bolts formed a net that directly enveloped Yi Qinghan and blasted into his body. Bang! Even his powerful physical body couldn't withstand such an attack. Yi Qinghan's flesh and blood exploded, dyeing the territory red. Ah! Yi Qinghan looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. He finally couldn't hold back his scream, but a moment later, tens of millions of lightning bolts blasted into Yi Qinghan's body. The sky was completely surrounded by lightning. At this moment, there was no way for him to escape. He was blasted directly into the ground and collapsed in a pool of blood. Boom, 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 boom. Jiang Jingtian had experienced many calamities and his Tao heart was firm. However, at this moment, his expression changed. Only now did he remember what Yi Qinghan had said. Why was the heavenly axiom targeting him? This was what it meant to be targeted. No matter where he ran, he couldn't escape. Yi Qinghan clutched his head and screamed miserably. However, his realm didn't drop. Instead, it slowly rose. His physical strength had fused with lightning and thunder elements, becoming even more powerful. His soul was repaired after being heavily injured. There was too much divine power within the Godhead, and it couldn't be used up. Therefore, the Godhead became stronger and stronger, and the space within it became larger and larger. His combat strength became even more terrifying. Yi Qinghan swallowed divine medicine. Large amounts of resources were quickly consumed to heal his injured body. At this point, there was no need to talk about wastage. It was good that he was still alive. Fortunately, he had many treasures and resources in Martial God City on him. The 3 clan elders were puzzled. In terms of history, they had the longest history. At this moment, they couldn't understand why the heavenly axiom was targeting Yi Qinghan. The supreme elder of the 10,000 arts returned to Origin's sect trembled slightly. He was supported by Fengyun as he walked up the city wall. He frowned when he saw Yi Qinghan being beaten up. Why? There were thousands of experts standing on the city wall. Which one of them wasn't a top-notch expert? But at this moment they were all puzzled. Why was Yi Qinghan receiving special care from the heavenly axiom? What do you think, Dao friends? The Supreme Elder had white hair and was past his prime. He was only a year away from the end of his life and could die at any time. His voice was majestic. In terms of age, he wasn't any younger than the Beast Tamer clan elder. The 3 clan elders shook their heads at the same time. They couldn't understand and couldn't guess what the heavenly axiom was thinking. Whoosh. His combat strength is about the same as mine. He can't be that strong. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be attacked by the heavenly axiom like this. The heavenly axiom was once shattered. It's doing this now because it has its own emotions. I suspect that Dao Friend Yi is one of the paramount gods who shattered the heavenly axiom back then. He just reincarnated and didn't know, but the heavenly axiom recognized him. Jingtian, don't talk nonsense. The mighty paramount god isn't someone we can speculate about, the Jiang clan elder hurriedly said. No. I think what he said makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, the heavenly axiom wouldn't attack him endlessly. The Supreme Elder actually agreed with Jiang Jingtian's speculation. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was being beaten to the point of almost going crazy. However, his realm didn't decrease. Instead, it increased. The order of his physical body had been broken thousands of times and then restored. This kind of pain that increased his cultivation didn't make him happy. Instead, he raised his head and roared furiously, "Are you King done? Did I dig up your family's ancestral grave?" Chapter 1034. Yi Qinghan roared at the sky. He couldn't understand why the heavenly axiom was attacking him endlessly. The dark clouds in the sky gathered once more as dense lightning bolts filled the sky. The tiny lightning bolts were extremely destructive as they enveloped the sky above Yi Qinghan. As time passed, the dark clouds of lightning that gathered could steal one's soul. They already had the ability to destroy Yi Qinghan's physical body. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He didn't expect the heavenly axiom to respond with an even more terrifying attack. Without thinking, he turned and ran straight for the entrance to the world of abyss. Whoosh, with a dive, he plummeted thousands of miles. What followed after him wasn't Jiang Jingtian, but lightning. It poured down like a waterfall and enveloped the entire abyss. Whoosh! The lightning chased after him at extreme speed. The tearing destruction caused the blood of countless people to freeze. They couldn't even use their divine power. It was as if the heavenly axiom had the intention to kill Yi Qinghan. Jiang Jingtian and the others narrowed their eyes as they retreated. What a terrifying heavenly punishment! What sins did Yi Qinghan commit in his previous life? Everyone gasped as they roared in their hearts. Tisk tsk. As expected of this divine bird's master. You're different from others. The divine bird wasn't shocked. Instead, it was delighted. It even praised itself while it was at it. The little moneygrubber looked at the divine bird in disdain. He thought it was really awesome, but it turned out that the lightning had turned it into such a ghastly state. It was like a crow burning a furnace. It couldn't be any darker. In the depths of the world of abyss, Yi Qinghan was already halfway there, but it was still difficult for him to escape. He was directly struck by lightning. His body was like a kite with a broken string as he fell from mid-air to the ground. Even the sturdy mountain rocks were smashed to pieces. Bang! Yi Qinghan crashed into the mountain rocks, causing sand and stone powder to fly up. It alarmed all the creatures within 1,000 miles. Kuelong emerged from the depths of the abyss once again. He couldn't help but be curious when he saw Yi Qinghan's face covered in dust and his blood-stained robes trembling as he climbed out of the pit. What a dense heavenly punishment aura! Were you struck by lightning? Kuelong asked in surprise. Cough cough, Yi Qinghan moved his body. All the bones in his body were about to fall apart, emitting a crisp sound. He looked at the Kuelong's large eyes that were looking down at him, feeling very awkward. Yi Qinghan said angrily, "The heavens are jealous of geniuses. Damn it, I must have offended them in my previous life. They've been watching me, so I can only come to the abyss world to hide." Kuelong's sun-like eyes were filled with schadenfreude and disdain. He said in human language, "Then you can take your time hiding. I won't accompany you." With that, Kuelong retreated into his lair again, leaving Yi Qinghan standing alone at the entrance of the cave. It was impossible to go up, so he could only wait for Jiang Jingtian to come down and explore the depths of the abyss together. Deep Heaven City. Everyone looked at each other, especially Li Feng and the others. They had originally come to pick up Yi Qinghan, but they didn't expect him to run back. Are we going down again? Otherwise, how are we going to explain to Sister Emperor? Dong Qin smiled bitterly. Emperor Yi had already returned to the endless star system. The current situation was very dangerous. Gu Qingyu alone wouldn't be able to support the entire endless star system and the Azura region. Let's go down again. His cultivation has recovered. We should be fine if we join forces. Zixian immediately agreed with Dong Qin's suggestion. Li Feng also nodded and didn't refute. Jiang Jingtian immediately said, "Three Dao friends, I wonder if you can help me arrange a territory for my people. I will help you find Brother Yi." Jiang Jingtian was very familiar with the Abyss world. He had been chased by demon wolves for 10 years. He had escaped everywhere he could. With him around, 2 demon wolves definitely wouldn't be able to hurt them. At this moment, Baiyelu grasped the opportunity. The beast tamer lineage's 100,000 people were too easy to arrange. He could just put them in Deep Heaven City and move the original people out. This was the best way. How about this? You guys can live here. I will move everyone here to the rear and build 2 separate teleportation gates in Deep Heaven City. One will lead to the Endless Star System, and the other will lead to the City of 10,000 Arts. We can look after each other, okay? Baiyelu quickly said. The 3 clan elders immediately nodded in agreement. After all, the beast tamer lineage couldn't do without fierce beasts. This place was convenient for them to enter the Abyss world. Even if they were attacked by the fierce beasts of the Abyss world, they could still get support from the 2 major forces. Jiang Jingtian hesitated for a moment and looked at Li Feng and the others. He felt that it was better to get the approval of the people of the Endless Star System. Li Feng didn't care, and Zixian and Dong Qin didn't belong to the real insane sect. They couldn't make the decision, so they were a little hesitant. Let's do this first. We'll talk about it when we find Brother Yi. Jiang Jingtian saw that they also had ideas, so he nodded in agreement. Baiyelu knew that the current 10,000 Arts converging sect couldn't be considered a major force. After all, the Grand Elder had been crippled by Kuelong, and they had lost a top-tier expert. If they didn't seize this opportunity, the 10,000 arts converging sex inheritance might very well be broken. You guys go down and save Brother Yi first. Leave the arrangements here to me. I guarantee that the beast tamer lineage won't be wronged. Bai Yelu hurriedly promised. After the beast tamer lineage settled down, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Zixian, and Dong Qin once again rushed down to the abyss world with Yi Qinghan's pet. Yi Qinghan didn't wander around. Instead, he sat in place to recover from his injuries and waited for Jiang Jingtian's arrival. An hour later, Yi Qinghan's injuries were healed, and his combat strength had increased significantly. The heavenly Tao had helped him. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and clenched his fists. He finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw 4 figures appear above him. The 4 experts joined forces to descend to the ground. The little miser, lowly bird, and other spirit pets rushed into Yi Qinghan's body. The benefits of his blood essence to spirit pets were incomparable to that of ordinary people. Jiang Jingtian explained the situation above. Yi Qinghan didn't object. Helping the 10,000 law domain once could be considered as an explanation to Bai Shaosheng. Moreover, with the teleportation array, the 3 sides could be said to have joined forces. The 2 factions wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Let's go deeper and see what the hell is in the depths of the abyss world. Yi Qinghan gazed at the hazy chaotic world. There were very few birds. Perhaps because of the Kuelong's interference, there wouldn't be another beast tide. Without any worries, Yi Qinghan wanted to explore once. I once ventured into the abyss world. I have many treasures. Once they take form, they will definitely become the most terrifying giant gods. They won't lose to the demon wolves. However, there are also many powerful monsters there. I estimate that there are about 10 of them at the same level as the demon wolves. I estimate that there are hundreds of monsters at the same level as us. As for the deeper parts, I don't know. I couldn't go in. I was chased by the demon wolves and almost died several times, Jiang Jingtian said calmly. Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone, let's go get some treasures to cultivate and strive to reach the demon wolf level as soon as possible. Those monsters are the main force of the primal chaos era. Only by cultivating to that level can we have the ability to protect ourselves in this era. Chapter 1035. Yi Qinghan and the others had gained a lot from their adventures in the abyss world, but what they gained the most was their bodies. They had undergone a qualitative change. Whether it was their talent, physique, or comprehension of the myriad precepts, they had all increased by more than 10 times. One could only imagine the changes if their combat strength increased by another 10 times. No matter how powerful Yi Qinghan and the others were, it was impossible for their combat strength to increase by 10 times. Demon God Mountain was silent for a long time. Perhaps because Yushin had been injured by the lightning punishment, many of the overgods had returned to their original state. They no longer took the initiative to attack other forces. It was the same in the sorcerer god's ancestral land. The second sorcerer god had been fighting for the longest time. He had almost died and was unable to fight. He could only rest and recuperate. The resources of the sorcerer race were almost all used up by him. The current situation was divided into several groups, each forming an alliance. The Demon Race Alliance was united by the Serpent and was the strongest. The Sorcerer Race Alliance's forces remained unchanged. The same was true for Demon God Mountain. At this moment, the Alliance of Insane Sects not only included the Shura region, the Six Paths Auction House, and the other small forces. The unifying sect had announced that they would join the Alliance of Insane Sects and establish the Eternal Covenant, which shocked the major forces in the Chaos Plane. Even the 2 camps wanted to separate them. They tried to dissuade them, but the unifying sect had already decided. No one could change it. The Alliance of Insane Sects also had a hidden superpower. Naturally, it was the Beast Tamer clan. The three clan elders working together could definitely defeat someone at Yao Lang's level. In addition, there were several giant gods. Their strength surpassed the unifying sect. Although they could not be compared to the insane sects, there was not much difference. After all, Jiang Jingtian alone could force Yi Qinghan to a draw. Coupled with the three clan elders, even if the insane sects wanted to defeat them, they would have to ask for external help like Li Feng and Zixian. There were also two large alliances that rose up at this time. The 9 great auction houses had joined hands, and in addition to some powerful trading companies, they were known as the Chamber of Commerce Alliance. Their wealth was comparable to that of a nation, and with their wealth and resources, they were able to suppress everyone. Not only did the two large factions not cause any trouble, but they were also the first to acknowledge their alliance. The last big alliance was the alliance of all the forces in the top 50 of the Chaos Plane. Of course, it did not include the Insane Sect Alliance, the 2 big camps, and the 9 auction houses. There were about 30 big forces and hundreds of medium forces. They almost occupied half of the Chaos Plane. They called themselves the Songhai Alliance. Although the top 10 experts of the Tsang Ocean Alliance had never appeared in the world, their battle prowess was not something that ordinary people could compare with. 10 clan elders were equivalent to 10 Jiang clan elders. If they joined forces, they would be equivalent to the Guangzhong Alliance. Moreover, they had more middle-level experts than the Guangzhong Alliance. Most importantly, the leader of the Songhai Alliance, Xiao Songhai, had unfathomable strength. 3 months ago, he had fought with the Serpent one-on-one. He was only slightly weaker than Xiao Songhai. Now, the Primal Chaos Plane had created a Primal Chaos Elite List, which represented the top 20 strongest people. The second sorcerer god was ranked first. No one knew how terrifying he was, and no one could refute his ranking. Even Yushin and the Serpent God had no objections. The second was Yushin of the Demon God Mountain, the third was the Serpent God, and the fourth was Xiao Songhai. The fifth was the clan leader of the Pan clan, Coiling Dragon Peak. The Pan clan here was a direct descendant of the Pan clan, the descendant of the primal chaos supreme god Pangu. His divine power was debatable. Some people said that he was ranked second, but he did not challenge anyone and did not care about the ranking. Therefore, he was ranked fifth. The sixth was the supreme elder of a super force. He was about to transform. His cultivation was extremely terrifying. His name was Fuyu. The 7th to 10th were the supreme elders of the Demon God Mountain and the Sorcerer Ancestors' Land. There was no doubt about it. The 10th to 16th were the elders of the other camps and the demon race's divine ancestor. The 17th was Emperor Yi. Because of his supreme godhead, no one dared to say anything, including Mo Li and Wu Yen. The 18th and 19th were Mo Li and Wu Yen, respectively. The Azura King was ranked 20th. No other young people were ranked on the elite list. Yi Qinghan's martial origin was shattered. He was not even ranked 20th on the elite list. Of course, his incarnation rushed into the top 20. Apart from the Primal Chaos elite list, there was also a list of the younger generation. The top 10 were all occupied by strangers, and the bottom 10 were occupied by battle constitutions. The cultivation of those strangers was terrifying. Their origins were unknown, but one thing was certain. They were all descendants of the supreme gods. They all had supreme godheads as their foundation. People from both camps had to step aside. No one dared to provoke them. The overall ranking of the younger generation was top 3. Even Emperor Yi did not squeeze in because he did not have a supreme godhead. The list of the elite list was based on one's overall strength, not the elite list. Chapter 1036. The second sorcerer god was enraged. Everything was different from what he had imagined, and it was out of his control. The sorcerer tribe leader, Wu Yi, did not dare to lie to his ancestor. He told him about the feud between the sorcerer tribe and the insane sect. The second sorcerer god's face changed as he stared at him coldly. A bunch of trash. You messed up my deployment. Are you all brainless? Boom. The second sorcerer god waved his hand and sent more than 10 top experts flying. No one dared to resist or fight back. Wu Yi and the rest were unwilling to speak. They knelt outside the hall and waited for the summons. Bring Wu Jiang to me. The second sorcerer god sat on the sorcerer ancestor's dragon throne and scolded. Wu Yi went to find Wu Jiang himself. He did not dare to face the second sorcerer god. Soon Wu Jiang was brought over. He already had the aura of an overlord, especially the thick supreme divine power. It was obvious that he was about to condense his own supreme divine spark. Wu Jiang looked at the cold second sorcerer god and guessed the reason. He knelt and bowed. Greetings, ancestor. The second sorcerer god looked at Wu Jiang indifferently and said hoarsely, What did I teach you? What's the big deal about an ethereal body? Is it necessary to offend the inheritor of the Chaos Dragon for an ethereal body? Is it necessary to offend the important person I set up? You didn't listen to me at all. Sorkai knelt in front of the second sorcerer god, and no matter how powerful his aura was, he couldn't intimidate the second sorcerer god. After all, he was the son of the first sorcerer patriarch. Only he could intimidate the second sorcerer god. I only wanted to intimidate the Kuang sect, but I didn't expect them to be so stubborn. Furthermore, I couldn't contact Yi Qinghan. I accidentally killed a few Kuang sect disciples, Wu Jiang explained in a low voice. Childish. You don't know how to repent and find excuses for your mistakes. You are not suitable to be the sorcerer god, the second sorcerer god said coldly. Wu Yi and Wu Jiang were shocked. Their faces were covered in cold sweat, and Wu Jiang was trembling in fear. Ancestor, I know I was wrong. Wu Jiang hurriedly pleaded. Old ancestor, Wu Jiang's talent is top-notch, and this is recognized by the Supreme Origin. You have to reconsider. Wu Yi and the others were also frightened by the second sorcerer god's indifference. If the second sorcerer god did not agree to Wu Jiang becoming the sixth sorcerer god, then his supreme origin would be taken away. Others could not take away the supreme origin, but could the son of the supreme god not do it? When this old one is doing something, it's not up to you all to interrupt. All of you, shut up. The second-generation shaman god's white hair flew up. His aura erupted and rushed into the 9 heavens. The hall fell into a dead silence. The majestic sorcerer god palace was filled with the glory of the second sorcerer god. No one dared to refute him. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me what you plan to do now. The second sorcerer god was silent for a moment before he looked directly at Wu Jiang and asked. Wu Jiang was sweating profusely. He knew that this was his last chance. The Supreme Source had chosen him, but the second-generation sorcerer could take it away because he was the old ancestor. I plan to come out of seclusion and kill Imoli, Wu Jiang said firmly. The second sorcerer god was not happy. Instead, he was angry. He frowned and looked at Wu Jiang. He did not expect him to be so childish and stupid. If the descendant of the great demonic god was so easy to kill, the demonic god mountain would have been destroyed long ago. Why would they wait until now? Foolish beyond compare. You only do things based on your emotions. You are hopeless. The sorcerer tribe cannot be handed over to you. Men, summon the ancestors' memorial tablet. Today, this old one will take away his supreme source and re-establish the sixth sorcerer god. The second sorcerer god said firmly. Outside the sorcerer god palace, the clan elders and patriarchs were all stunned. Wu Jiang's face was filled with despair. Without the supreme source and the position of sorcerer god, how could he be considered an elite? he would be knocked off his divine altar in an instant and be powerless to fight. Old ancestor, I know my mistake. Please teach me, old ancestor. I will definitely learn with an open mind. Wu Jiang shouted. No need. You are not suitable to be the sorcerer god. From the beginning, I felt that there was a problem. It seems that the inheritance of the source can also be wrong. This time, I will personally select the sixth sorcerer god. The second sorcerer god's attitude was firm and unquestionable. He ordered Wu Yi, gather the elites of the sorcerer tribe and reselect the sixth sorcerer god. Elder of Inheritance, summon the Father God's memorial tablet. Elder of Inheritance, give me a list of the most talented disciples. Great Elder of the Sorcerer Tribe, listen to my orders. Announce to the public that Wu Jiang has made a mistake. I will take away his supreme source and reselect the successor. The second sorcerer god continued to give orders. No one was allowed to refute any of his orders. Wu Jiang was in complete despair. He did not expect the second sorcerer god to be so strict. A single mistake had cost him everything. He immediately collapsed to the ground. No one dared to refute the second old ancestor's orders. Everyone had their own tasks and carried them out in an orderly manner. The sorcerer tribe's ancestral land was in an uproar. Wu Jiang was crippled. The truly talented people had the chance to fight for the supreme source and be conferred the title of the sixth sorcerer god. Some were happy, but others were sad. All those who had participated in the hunt for the crazy sect were arrested. Those who had personally killed the crazy sect had their source crippled and were escorted to the endless galaxy. They were directly sent to Emperor Yi for her to deal with. Elder Shand of the Sorcerer Tribe personally escorted them and brought an invitation from the second sorcerer god. He invited Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi to attend the ceremony of the sixth sorcerer god. Emperor Yi looked at the invitation and did not make any response. The deaths of the crazy sect could not be compensated by the deaths of these people. Even if Wu Jiang was crippled, it would not work. Even if there was no more hatred, he did not want to be entangled with the sorcerer tribe. I can't make the decision on this matter. Let's wait for my master to come back. If he wants to go, he can go, Emperor Yi replied coldly. Elder Shan smiled bitterly and said with a fist salute, Then I'll take my leave first. If Lord Yi comes back, please ask him to come to the sorcerer tribe's ancestral land. The second sorcerer god wants to see him and has something important to discuss. Got it. Emperor Yi did not look happy and waved his hand to send the guest away. Elder Shand of the sorcerer tribe could only retreat. Looking at the invitation, he learned that the ceremony of the sixth sorcerer god would be held in the spring of next year. For a moment, he did not know whether to go or not. After all, many forces would be invited to this ceremony. The second sorcerer god had even dealt with Wu Jiang for the crazy sect. If he did not give face, the second sorcerer god would definitely be angry. More than 10 masters of the inner sect of the crazy sect gathered. Emperor Yi said softly, Master is still in the abyss world. He may not be able to come back in a year. Do you think it's better for me to attend the ceremony or not? Gu Qingyu and the others were silent. They did not have a good impression of the sorcerer tribe or the demon god mountain. Even if the other party showed goodwill, they would not have feelings for them. They were not willing to attend the ceremony. Go and prepare a big gift. At this moment, a clear voice broke the silence. A beautiful woman appeared outside the hall. It was Medusa, who had disappeared for a long time. Emperor Yi turned his head and immediately rushed forward, shouting, Sister, you're finally back. Why do we have to attend the ceremony? Isn't this showing weakness? Chapter 1037. Emperor Yi and the others were very curious. They did not understand why Medusa wanted the insane sect to participate in the sorcerer god's coronation ceremony. Yes, I don't understand. Gu Qingyu and the others were all martial arts fanatics. Their understanding of fighting was at its peak, but they were still lacking when it came to dealing with people. There are no eternal enemies in the world, only eternal interests. The sorcerer god's ancestral land and the demon god mountain are both forces that cannot be destroyed. They can only join forces to deal with the other. You can offend both at the same time. Even if there is hatred, there is nothing you can do. If you choose to offend both sides, they will probably join forces to destroy us first. These old foxes don't care about principles, only interests. Do you understand? Medusa was still as beautiful as a flower. Her words and actions were full of seduction. Her understanding of human nature was more thorough than experts like Emperor Yi. In terms of intelligence, she was not inferior to Yi Qinghan. She was just not as treacherous as Yi Qinghan. Although Emperor Yi understood Medusa's considerations, he was still unwilling. He always felt that an enemy was an enemy. There was no need to compromise. The insane sect is indeed powerful. I have learned a little about it outside. The alliance of the insane sect can even be compared to the two camps. However, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. It is not only the two camps that are eyeing us now, but also the two alliances. Once they join forces, destroying the insane sect will be as easy as eating. We lack a foundation, and the most important thing is the supreme divine power. This is the foundation. Without a foundation, no matter how strong we appear to be, we will still be weak. Our strength is all on the surface. How can we compete with the unfathomable forces? Medusa explained faintly. Oh sister, I understand. Emperor Yi suddenly understood. They had thought of things too simply. Sometimes, no matter how strong they appeared to be, they could not be compared to the forces with a foundation. Gu Qingyu looked at Medusa and found that the divine power in her body was very unstable. He asked in surprise, "Are you going to evolve again?" Medusa smiled, completely at ease with Kuang Zong. She nodded and said, "That's right. I've been wandering outside all these years, and I've had some insights and opportunities. I've evolved by coincidence. If I evolve again, I should be able to reach the level of a constitution." Medusa dared to say that she was comparable to a combat constitution, which meant that she had surpassed the other combat constitutions. She should be comparable to the top 5 experts like the Guangwu combat constitution. While the Wild Sect was still discussing, the Sorcerer Tribe's ancestral land made a high-profile announcement that they would abolish Wu Zhang's supreme origin and elect a new sorcerer god. This news shocked all the forces, especially Emoli. He clenched his fists and muttered to himself hoarsely, "Could it be that the second sorcerer god has found a more suitable candidate? Wu Jiang is easy to deal with. This person is brave but not astute. He seems intelligent but in reality, he is not. If it was another 6th sorcerer, I'm afraid I would have to change my strategy." At this time, Qin Wentian walked out of seclusion. He had matured a lot and had become a young lady. He looked valiant and heroic, displaying the true aura of an ethereal body. Qin Wentian went directly to the demonic palace and saw Emoli frowning. He did not care about his troubles at all. He said indifferently, "I'm going back to the Wild Sect. Don't look for me if there's nothing." Emoli frowned and said, "Why are you going to the Wild Sect? Your identity is very special. Try not to go there alone. I don't want your fate to be in the hands of others. The Wild Sect is my home. I'm going to look for my uncle. No one in the Wild Sect will take my life." "You worry too much," Qin Wentian retorted. "I don't trust the Wild Sect, especially Yi Qinghan. He is very scheming. You may treat him as a father, but he might not treat you as a daughter. Don't interact with him in the future," Emoli reprimanded as an elder brother. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes and did not want to say more. He turned and left. Emoli was a little angry. He slammed the table and stood up. He said with dissatisfaction, Wentian, my demonic mountain is your home. I Emoli am your family. Everyone in the world will harm you, but not me. You haven't been nice to me since you came back. I don't care about you because I treat you as a child, but you can't be too immature. No one dared to interrupt the quarrel between the two monstrous geniuses of the demonic mountain. Yushin also did not want to say more. She pretended not to hear and left the demonic palace. Hey, Emoli, who are you calling immature? It's true that I have the ethereal body, and it's also true that I came from the demonic mountain. However, I was raised by my uncle. He did not hesitate to fall out with the second sorcerer for me. He took me in and out of tens of thousands of enemies. If he wanted to harm me, he would have killed me when I was very young. There's no need for him to risk his life for me. I allow you to insult anyone, but you are not allowed to speak ill of him. Otherwise, don't blame me for falling out with you. Qin Wentian turned and glared at Emoli. The corner of Emoli's mouth twitched. He clenched his fist. After a long time, he compromised. He loosened his fists and sighed. Wentian, as a demonic god, is my position in your heart lower than Yi Qinghan? I don't know why he raised you, but he definitely has other motives. I don't believe that he raised you because you are an orphan. There are many lonely children in the world, and I don't see him raising a second orphan. Humph, I can't be bothered with you. Qin Wentian snorted. He turned and ran, not giving Emoli another chance to speak. Emoli looked down on everyone, but he could not do anything to Qin Wentian. She was unwilling to give him face. Sometimes she would refute him in front of everyone, making him lose face. However, he seemed to have feelings for Qin Wentian. Although he was furious on the surface, there was not much malice in his heart. Sigh. That damned Yi Qinghan. His martial path was crippled, but he still stole the ethereal body of my clan. Emoli raised his head and sighed. He was helpless. In the Abyss world, Yi Qinghan, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and the others went deep into the Abyss world. Under the guidance of the little critter, the divine bird, and Dong Qin, they had a panoramic view of all the treasures. They could easily take the most valuable treasures. Some of the resources that they did not need to take away were refined on the spot. Only the real treasures were taken away. Along the way, the 5 of them fought and killed. With the 5 of them working together, they were invincible. Other than those at the level of the demon wolf, there was really no one who could resist the joint attack of the 5 of them. As time passed, the 5 of them went deeper and deeper. The creatures inside also became stronger and stronger. A large number of rare and strange creatures with the power to destroy the heavens and the earth gradually appeared. After a month, Yi Qinghan and the others appeared outside of the Enlightenment Mountain. Looking at the endless mountain range, they were very curious about how the creatures here could take away the life force of the powerful divine shrine. The 5 of them were bold and powerful, so they decided to find out. The 5 of them looked at each other and nodded. In the middle of Dong Qin's residence, the 4 experts occupied the 4 corners of the mountain range. Step by step, they closed in on the mountain range. An austere aura filled the air, and a desolate killing intent shrouded the area. The life force in their bodies suddenly flowed faster. It was so indescribable that they couldn't even find the reason why it was flowing away. Chapter 1038. The aura of desolation pervaded the air, taking away all life. Even powerful gods like Yi Qinghan couldn't break free from the shackles. Only plant life forms were unaffected. The blade-like leaves were luxuriant and lush, and spiritual herbs were everywhere. They were all of the best quality, making people drool. The divine herbs here had existed for countless years without anyone picking them. They aged and formed seeds, causing the number of divine herbs to increase and attract more creatures. Some white bones were hidden under the withered leaves, and a light step would make a crisp sound. Yi Qinghan casually pushed aside the withered leaves under his feet and found piles of white bones in the depth. They had been dead for countless years, and he couldn't help but be shocked. The deeper they went, the higher the grade of the divine herbs, and the denser they were. However, the bones hidden under the withered leaves were harder and harder, like divine weapons. It was clear how powerful they were when they were alive. The five of them looked at each other with serious expressions and continued to move forward. Thump, 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 muffled sounds came from the depths as if the mountain was sleeping. The beating of a heart beat in the sky, and a terrifying sound reverberated. As they went deeper, they could see divine herbs of the high god level, divine fruits, and the like, which were more and more attractive. It would make people's greed infinitely greater, and the ferocious beasts would also continue to go deeper. This was also the reason why there were so many white bones in this mountain range. This independent mountain range extended all the way into the depth. Yi Qinghan and the others took out their divine weapons and moved forward step by step. Although they didn't encounter any danger, their life force was rapidly dissipating. It was as if a year had passed with every step. I keep feeling that some creature is attracting us to go deeper, taking away our life force. No wonder the divine orchids of enlightenment rarely appear here, Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. This is a forbidden area. This is only the periphery. My race rarely enters here, and I've reached this position at most. If we go any deeper, the speed of our life force dissipating will obviously increase. Jiang Jingtian looked at the valley. After this valley, the aura was completely different. This was Death Valley. In the valley, a river ran from north to south. The mountain range was deep, and there were colors everywhere. Flowers bloomed in green, swaying with the wind. It was like a fairyland. A large number of divine fruits emitted a rich fragrance. The fist-sized divine peaches were filled with life force, and even the flesh was red. It was extremely tempting. This peach was called the Spirit Concentrating Peach. Eating it could refine one's soul and allow a mortal to quickly become a lower god. Even their soul was extremely close to the realm of God. This was the best way to cultivate mortals, but there were not many of them. Yi Qinghan jumped into the valley and plucked a spirit-concentrating peach. He put it into his mouth and took a bite. It was refreshing, sweet, and very tasty. It could calm the mind and condense the soul, but this level of divine fruit could only quench his thirst. It wouldn't be of much use. What a strange place. Other than plants and divine medicines, there are no other living creatures. Such a large mountain range is simply inconceivable. Zixian exclaimed. No, there are some creatures. However, their vitality is not strong, but their killing power is very strong. They live on the other side of the valley. Jiang Jingtian immediately said. Splash, splash. The river flowed. It was so clear that one could see the bottom. There wasn't even any fish. Yi Qinghan came to the river and squatted down. He reached out to touch the water. He felt a chill in the depths of his soul. The water wasn't cold, but it was filled with a ruthless aura. It was like the aura of death that affected the emotions of living things. There's something wrong with this water. Where does it come from? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Jiang Jingtian thought for a moment and said, It comes from the depth. This river runs from north to south, but 300 miles north, it turns and runs from east to west. I don't know where it ends. I once followed this river to the west, but I met a demon wolf before I reached the end. This water has the aura of death. There's no life force. It reminds me of a legendary place. Yi Qinghan said faintly. What place? Li Feng and the others asked curiously. Yellow Springs. Yellow Springs water. Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Hell? The true land of reincarnation, not the 9 nether plane. It only absorbed the deaths of some living things and was responsible for their reincarnation. However, a slightly stronger master god couldn't reincarnate. Hell, on the other hand, had a complete system of laws. No one could break free from its restraints. Even the supreme gods were bound by hell. You mean to say that this abyss world leads to the final land of reincarnation, hell? Everyone asked in unison. It's possible. However, this water has been diluted by pure water. I'm not sure. Yi Qinghan pondered. This time, Jiang Jingtian fell silent. As a native, he didn't dare to be sure of what was in the depths. He also didn't think that it was hell. The 9 paths of reincarnation were illusory. They complemented the heavenly Tao and bound all things. It had always been a legendary existence. No one had seen hell, and no one had seen any living things that came out of hell. People even suspected that hell was just a shackle that bound the gods and that it didn't really exist. Brother Jing Tian, do you know where this river flows after detouring from here? Yi Qinghan looked up at the valley. He found that the river was more than 30 meters wide and thousands of miles deep. He couldn't see the end. Jiang Jingtian thought about it and suddenly realized. This river crosses the entire width of the mountain range and then goes back. This river surrounds the entire Enlightenment Mountain. Interesting. If this river is really Yellow Springs water, then Enlightenment Mountain is really interesting. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a strange smile. He didn't feel any reverence for the depths, only curiosity. He wanted to know everything about this mountain. The 5 of them didn't hesitate to cross the valley and the river. When they reached the other side of the valley, they saw a path that led to the heavens. On the side of the path was a stone tablet with the words, Great Barren Mountain. Yi Qinghan suddenly felt the vitality in his body pouring out like a waterfall. His soul was about to be sucked dry. Whoosh! Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and the others retreated into the valley in an instant. Their faces were deathly pale. For a moment they could clearly feel that they had stepped into hell and not the Great Barren Mountain. Yi Qinghan only hesitated for a moment. His face turned old and his limbs were weak. He knelt down on one knee, his black hair turning yellow. Humph! Yi Qinghan groaned. He mobilized his godly power and began to fight for the vitality. His soul expanded crazily. His eyes revealed a fierce light as he stared at the chaotic runes and the words Great Barren Mountain. Suddenly, an inexplicable image appeared in his mind. It had nothing to do with him. The evolution of hell, the profound meaning of reincarnation, the abstruse law runes, and the endless skeletons and corpses all revolved crazily in a passage, pulling his soul into the depths. Come back! A low call exploded in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. This tearing force was tens of millions of times more terrifying than the small reincarnation in the 9 underworld. It was on a completely different level. Chapter 1039. Return. The deep and resounding voice kept exploding in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness, disrupting his divine sense. Yi Qinghan bit his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Only then did he wake up. His eyes were clear and his heart was beating several times faster than usual. Thump, 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 thump. Brother Yi, come back quickly! Brother Qinghan, wake up! Li Feng and the others shouted in the valley, but Yi Qinghan did not respond. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out lightning as he stared at the stone steel. In a daze, everything here seemed so familiar, as if he had been here before. However, he was certain that this was his first time here. How can this be? I seem to have seen everything here before. With the passage of time, Yi Qinghan became more mature and experienced. His vitality was rapidly dissipating, but his soul was becoming more and more stable. Large amounts of memories that did not belong to him rushed out, but these memory fragments also seemed to belong to him, just that they came from the depths of the sea of bitterness. Could there really be a past life? Is there really reincarnation? Am I someone who reincarnated? I have never experienced these memories before, but it seems like I have experienced them before. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with confusion. His aura became deep and mysterious as his aura surged into the depths. He gradually gained a firm foothold and began to struggle for vitality with the great desolate mountain. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped onto the great path. As he passed by the stone stele, he suddenly had a thought. He was the one who had erected this stone stele. With every step he took, some of his vitality would return. He gradually walked further and further away, as if he could not hear the roars of the 4 experts behind him. Jiang Jingtian picked up a pebble and threw it fiercely at Yi Qinghan's back. However, when the pebble was 1 meter away from Yi Qinghan's back, it was shattered into pieces by the 5-element gang energy. Zixian's eyes changed color as he blasted at Yi Qinghan's back. However, a samsara appeared behind him and sucked the power of Zixian's other pupil into the samsara. He was unable to shake Yi Qinghan at all. How is this possible? He's not Yi Qinghan. Zixian was very sure that he had used his full strength. Even if Yi Qinghan was at his peak, he would still be sent flying if he was caught off guard. But now it didn't have any effect at all. What? He wasn't Yi Qinghan? Then who is he? Dong Qin asked in shock. Jiang Jingtian gasped. Recalling the special care that the heavenly Tao gave to Yi Qinghan, he said in a hoarse voice, "He must be the reincarnation of some great supreme god. Right now, he has just subconsciously returned to the state of the supreme god and subconsciously mastered the true mystery of reincarnation. Let's go deeper into the river." Didn't you say that we'll turn after 300 miles to the north? It's only 300 li. We should be able to monitor his path. Li Feng immediately suggested. Alright. The other 3 immediately agreed. It was only 150 kilometers, so the 4 of them quickly rushed over. The river was indeed winding. A river flowed from the west to the east, and the river water was not turbulent. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 4 of them stepped on the treetops and looked towards the south. Their eyes pierced through the void, and they could even see Yi Qinghan unconsciously moving forward. At this moment Yi Qinghan was definitely conscious, and very clear. However, his soul was only active in the depths of his sea of consciousness. He couldn't see or hear anything outside. At this moment, his body seemed to be controlled by the memories that were surging up from the depths of his sea of consciousness. A large number of profound truths regarding the great Tao of reincarnation appeared in his sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan's soul was devouring them, cultivating, comprehending them, and unconsciously using his memories to control reincarnation. His memory of the profound truths of reincarnation had reached the pinnacle, and he was definitely at the supreme god level. Yi Qinghan's surroundings were filled with the profound truths of reincarnation. He instantly seized back all the vitality he had lost, and he even began to extract vitality from the great desolate mountain. He was incomparably powerful, as if he was a true supreme god looking down on everything. Roar! A furious roar came from the depths of the great desolate mountain, shaking the forest. Even the depths of the abyss world fell into a deathly silence. No creature dared to respond or provoke it. Yi Qinghan raised his eyes and looked into the depths of the mountain. He saw a golden creature appear in his line of sight. Although it was thousands of miles away, he could clearly see it. It had the head of a lion, the body of a qilin, the horns of a dragon, and the wings of a phoenix. It was the embodiment of all the essences of the 4 great sacred beasts. It was incomparably majestic, and its vitality was so noble that even the Yao wolf could only kneel before it. Li Feng and the others could only hear the beast's furious roar, but they couldn't see its figure. Yi Qinghan subconsciously murmured, "A desolate beast that devours all the vitality of the world, roar!" Thousands of miles away, the desolate beast came to a stop. It stood in the void and looked down at Yi Qinghan. Its eyes were filled with confusion and awe, but the anger was actually the least. Yi Qinghan gradually waved his right hand. It was as if the heavens themselves were moving. A giant palm imprint appeared from the void and grabbed at the desolate beast. Roar! The desolate beast's aura trembled, and its mighty aura caused Jiang Jingtian and the others' breathing to stagnate. They fell from the sky and looked into the distance with pale faces. They saw the giant palm imprint materialize from the void and grab the desolate beast's neck with an inviolable will. Instantly, their hair stood on end. He's definitely not Yi Qinghan. Zixian was even more certain that this kind of power could only be displayed by the greatest of overgods. Words and actions followed the law. Even the great Tao had to listen to his command. No, he's Yi Qinghan. It's just that his body is being controlled by the memories of his past life. Jiang Jingtian was very certain of his conjecture. Yi Qinghan was the reincarnation of a overgod. Could he be the reincarnation of the Lord of Samsara? Zixian asked himself doubtfully. The 21 overgods, the masters of the 6 paths, were all overgods. The Lord of Samsara was one of them. Yi Qinghan now controlled the ultimate profound meaning of samsara. It was obvious that he was the Lord of Samsara. Nothing was certain yet. No one could be sure. The desolate beast was caught in the palm of the giant palm. In an instant it was dragged in front of Yi Qinghan. The desolate beast roared in grief. Looking at its weak body, it didn't dare to attack. Its thick and strong limbs trembled. Gradually, it knelt in front of Yi Qinghan. Compared to the desolate beast, Yi Qinghan's body could only be considered weak. As long as the desolate beast gently waved its claws, it could tear him to pieces. Looking at the desolate beast, Yi Qinghan's eyes became clearer and clearer. The feeling of returning to the origin shattered at the touch. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through the barrier. Yi Qinghan furrowed his brows and tried his best to recall, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember. This sort of clear yet inexplicable thing drove him crazy. Roar! Losing control of the giant palm, the desolate beast slowly retreated. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt like he was looking at another him controlling the situation. He couldn't do anything about it. Cold sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. He felt like he had bumped into a ghost. Thinking back to the power of that palm, it seemed like it could flatten the entire desolate mountain. The primal chaos power of the 13 godhoods in his body had been completely exhausted in an instant. Hoo! Yi Qinghan's breathing sped up. The entire abyss world could sense it clearly. However, this situation disappeared in an instant. The world's law patterns became blurry again. The primal chaos power wasn't enough for him to continue. Boom! Yi Qinghan's mind rumbled. The memory fragments that surged up sank into the sea of bitterness once again and disappeared without a trace. He couldn't control them no matter how hard he tried. It was as if the seawater above the sea of bitterness was a seal that completely sealed the memory fragments. Bang! After regaining control of his body, Yi Qinghan felt like his body weighed 1,000 pounds. He couldn't stand steadily and knelt on the ground. The desolate beast that had retreated 1,000 miles was stunned. Its eyes were filled with doubt and ferocity. Chapter 1040. The beast stared at Yi Qinghan until his hair stood on end. Now that he was sober, he shuddered as he recalled what had just happened. Huff, 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 Yi Qinghan exhaled a few times and stood up. He pretended to be fine, trying to intimidate the beast. The beast hesitated when it saw Yi Qinghan stand up again. It stopped moving forward, its eyes glinting coldly. The vitality around it was quickly draining away, but it stopped when it was less than 10 meters away from Yi Qinghan. It wasn't that the beast didn't have the ability to do so, but that it didn't dare to do so. The beast was wary of Yi Qinghan's supreme aura. Even though it saw that Yi Qinghan was extremely weak, it didn't dare to attack. It only dared to approach slowly. It was now only a few hundred meters away. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He was afraid that the wild beast would pounce on him. Thinking back to how he had just captured the wild beast, he pretended to raise his hand slightly. His force rushed to the highest heavens, as if he was going to capture the wild beast. The beast was indeed strong, even stronger than the serpent. It might even be as strong as the second sorcerer god at his peak. However, when it saw Yi Qinghan raise his hand, it turned and ran. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to go any deeper as he watched the wild beast escape. He had run out of divine power, and the great Tao of reincarnation was circling in his mind. This was the best time to condense the reincarnation divine persona. Once he succeeded, his 9-revolution chaotic Tao physique would advance to the next level. There seemed to be only beasts in the great barren mountain. Although they were absorbing vitality, the beast didn't dare to blaspheme the might of a supreme god. It didn't use the great barren mountain to absorb Yi Qinghan's vitality. Relatively speaking, this place was the safest. Yi Qinghan looked around and didn't find any danger. He sat cross-legged on the ground and swallowed a large number of sacred herbs to replenish his divine power. The divine herbs in his yin and yang ring decreased rapidly. Soon, half of the divine herbs in the endless space were gone. The 13 godhoods were completely empty, and to repair them would require an ocean's worth of resources. It was hard to even imagine how many resources it would take to break through to the next level. And it made sense why there had only been 21 paramount gods in the past. If there had been more, the Chaosverse wouldn't have been able to handle it. Boom! Boom! The primal chaos divine power within the Godhead started to surge violently, slamming against the walls of the Godhead, but it was still far from filling up the entire Godhead space. After exhausting them all, Yi Qinghan discovered that the storage space of the 13 divine personas had increased by quite a bit. Although he was extremely close to the giant god Great Circle realm, every bit of progress was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. There was no problem with his divine personas. It all depended on his understanding of the path, magic, and divine ability. Soon, Yi Qinghan emptied the entire universe ring. After using up all the divine herbs, Yi Qinghan set his sights on the divine herbs on the great desolate mountain. He released his aura and covered 1,000 miles as he frantically absorbed the medicinal properties of the divine herbs to increase his combat strength. After filling up all 13 divine personas, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He finally had the ability to protect himself. The grand Tao of reincarnation was still floating in his sea of consciousness. It was incomparably clear, as if he could make all things reincarnate with a wave of his hand. Any attack could be nullified. At this moment, his understanding of the grand Tao of myriad arts had become even more thorough. Yi Qinghan formed a seal with both hands, drawing out the 8 trigrams of reincarnation. Divine power surged and gathered, capturing the medicinal properties of countless divine herbs across space. The divine herbs in the vicinity were sucked dry on the spot, turning into dried-up branches without the slightest trace of divinity. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Yi Qinghan's back and chest formed 2 huge 8 trigrams of reincarnation diagrams. They absorbed all the essence within 1,000 miles and began to condense the reincarnation divine persona. 300 miles away, Li Feng and the others noticed that Yi Qinghan was advancing by leaps and bounds. However, he lacked divine herbs. They were afraid that the divinity in the periphery of the great desolate mountain would not be enough for him to break through. After some discussion, they decided to let Dong Qin enter the mountain to deliver the divine herbs. After all, Dong Qin had the celestial treasure battle physique. Her physical body was made up of divine herbs. She was like a piece of Tang Seng's flesh. Her vitality was boundless and could resist the absorption of vitality by the great desolate beast. If you can't do it, you must come back in time. We will protect you. We will not let other creatures attack you, Li Feng said in a deep voice. Dong Qin nodded and rushed into the great desolate mountain with the 4 universe rings in their hands. However, the great desolate mountain did not absorb vitality at this moment. Perhaps it was because she was behind Yi Qinghan. If she went deeper, she would definitely find that the great desolate mountain was still a life-stealing great desolate mountain. The great desolate beasts were afraid of Yi Qinghan. They did not control the great desolate mountain at the periphery. After passing through 30 miles in front of Yi Qinghan, the speed at which vitality was being absorbed was still fierce. Very few creatures could escape this fatal calamity. Dong Qin noticed the problem and quickly waved her hand. The desolate aura here that absorbs life force has disappeared. It should be because Brother Qinghan just displayed a supreme divine power that made the desolate beast or the great desolate mountain lose the ability to devour the life force of living beings. The 3 of them did not hesitate and quickly rushed into the great desolate mountain. In a flash, they appeared beside Yi Qinghan. He took out all the divine herbs in his universe ring. The divine bird, the little money grubber, was also quite generous. He took out all the supreme treasures that he had kept for many years and placed them around Yi Qinghan, allowing him to absorb them. The yin-yang 8 trigrams reincarnation diagram was even clearer. They could even see the patterns and runes. It was like a real reincarnation. It could allow supreme experts to borrow the Tao of reincarnation. Yi Qinghan was currently focused on cultivating. He did not notice the 4 people approaching him. At this moment, the yin-yang 8 trigrams reincarnation diagram could resist the attacks of most experts. Even if Jiang Jingtian were to launch a sneak attack, it would only interrupt him from condensing the godhood. It would not hurt him at all. In his sea of consciousness, there was a crude godhood with patterns that were full of the mysteries of reincarnation. Every point or surface was a small reincarnation. It absorbed all the god power. Even the primal chaos god power in the other 13 godhoods began to rush into this reincarnation godhood to help it condense. At this moment, the reincarnation of good fortune demonstrated his strength. It displayed the true power of the 6 great Tao. Perhaps it benefited from Yi Qinghan's cultivation in his previous life. Time passed bit by bit. 4 long dragons of divine herbs appeared in the sky above the great desolate mountain. Countless divine herbs were pulled over through the air. The yin-yang 8 trigrams reincarnation diagram appeared on both sides of Yi Qinghan. At this moment, he was like a bottomless pit, absorbing all the essence to condense the reincarnation godhood. At this moment, the desolate beast was still spying on them. It stared at Yi Qinghan, its eyes full of doubt. If not for the reincarnation aura on Yi Qinghan's body surging into the sky, it might not have been able to suppress the madness and bloodlust in its heart. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The light of reincarnation illuminated the 9 heavens. The darkness in the central region of the great desolate mountain was torn apart. It attracted the attention of many ferocious beasts. Roar. The desolate beast roared in a low voice. It seemed to be instructing some of the ferocious beasts to do something. Suddenly, a few giant iron mantises rushed out. They were more than 30 meters tall. The mantises' pincers could shatter mountains and break through the earth. They rushed toward Yi Qinghan and the others. Screech. Some powerful ferocious beasts rushed out from the interior of the great desolate mountain. Their target was this place. It seemed like the desolate beast wanted to confirm Yi Qinghan's true identity. In a few days, Kuang Wuzhan's comic characters will be available on the Genesis Chinese network. Daodu is looking for an artist. Is there anyone who wants to learn how to draw? You can add me to the discussion. Chapter 1041. Boom. The 4 iron mantises waved their pincers, crushing the mountains as they charged toward Li Feng and the others. Whoosh! Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and the others attacked at the same time. Sword Qi soared to the sky, cutting the void open. However, when the sword qi collided with the pincers, sparks flew in all directions. The 4 experts only sent the iron mantises flying, but they couldn't cut off the pincers at all. Boom! 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 The 4 iron mantises' huge bodies broke dozens of ancient trees, and even the mountains collapsed. However, they weren't affected in the slightest. They quickly got up and attacked the 4 people. Li Feng and the others guarded Yi Qinghan more than 10 meters in front of Yi Qinghan, not allowing the iron mantises to affect Yi Qinghan. Screech! Before the 4 iron mantises were dealt with, several other vicious birds rushed over. Their sharp claws pierced through the void, and with a few swoops, they crossed the line of defense of Li Feng and the others. Screech! Whoosh! Zixian took a few steps back. Her palms crossed in front of her eyes, and a terrifying light burst out from her eyes. The space in front of her froze, and several vicious birds were imprisoned in the air at the same time. In just a moment, she drew her sword again and directly cut the space. Dozens of sword qi streaked across the sky, and a moment later, all the birds were torn into pieces. Even their godheads were cut open. Light of different pupils. Confine. After killing the birds, Zixian tapped the air with the tip of her foot and swept over Li Feng, Jiang Jingtian, and the others. Her eyes pierced through the void, and directly imprisoned the 4 iron mantises. Screech! Boom! Dong Qin, Li Feng, and Jiang Jingtian seized the opportunity and continuously slashed hundreds of times, dismembering the iron mantises. Even the pincers on their forelimbs were cut off. Whoosh! The light of different pupils only worked for 2 breaths of time before it lost its effect. The mantises' corpses exploded, and blood stained the desolate mountain. Humph! Zixian obviously didn't have it easy to burst out such a powerful strength. Although it was only 2 breaths of time, the damage she suffered was obvious. At this moment, she let out a muffled groan, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. The light in her eyes gradually disappeared, and she was exhausted. Roar! Jiang Jingtian suddenly merged with the Qilin cub and erupted with the terrifying might of a saint beast. With a roar, he intimidated all the fierce beasts and birds that were galloping over. In an instant, the world fell into a deathly silence. No one dared to step forward. Roar! Boom! Boom! A roar rang out from the depths of the great desolate mountain, causing the entire great desolate mountain to tremble. A terrifying pressure directly blasted into Jiang Jingtian's sea of consciousness. Puff! Blood sprayed out of Jiang Jingtian's mouth as he was sent tumbling backward. He simply couldn't withstand the soul attack of the wasteland beast. This beast had reached the pinnacle of perfection, and was the #1 expert below the paramount gods. If a true powerhouse wanted to kill a giant god, all it would take was a single will, a single glance. The great desolate beast had launched a soul attack with an unstoppable will, but it still hadn't been able to kill Jiang Jingtian. People at their level were already standing at the peak. What a powerful beast! It's several times stronger than the wolf demon. Jiang Jingtian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth as he stared into the depths of the mountain. The wasteland beast was incomparably majestic, and its energy soared to the heavens. It was like a supreme god looking down on its subjects, and anyone who dared to defy it would die. In a battle between gods, weak creatures were nothing more than cannon fodder. The fierce beasts no longer obeyed the wasteland beast's orders, and began to flee. But in the blink of an eye, the powerful beasts that were still fleeing had their blood drained away, and their corpses were smashed into pieces. All of the living creatures in the great desolate mountain could live with a single thought from the wasteland beast. Li Feng and the others were shocked. The origin of this beast was simply too terrifying. It could actually devour the life force of so many powerful creatures in the blink of an eye. Without hesitation, the 4 of them retreated behind Yi Qinghan. It wasn't that they didn't care about his life, but rather that the wasteland beast feared him and wouldn't dare to attack recklessly. As expected, the wasteland beast didn't continue to attack. Instead, it stared at the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams reincarnation seal on Yi Qinghan's body, its eyes filled with fear and confusion. It couldn't understand how such a powerful paramount god could be so weak. Yi Qinghan's hand seals were forming faster and faster, and the speed at which he was absorbing the medicinal properties and primal chaos energy was also increasing. Large amounts of supreme-grade primal chaos mana were turned to waste, and the treasures in the spatial rings of so many people were squandered away. Even so, the reincarnation godhood was not enough to fill up. It was a bottomless pit. A truly bottomless pit. The reincarnation godhood was somewhat similar to Emperor Ye's paramount godhood, although it was still in the giant god realm, and not even in the Great Circle. Gradually, Yi Qinghan's body began to emit the might of a paramount god. His primal chaos energy wasn't enough. Subconsciously, Yi Qinghan rose from the ground and opened his eyes. Containing a terrifying will, he pressed down on the wasteland beast. Roar! The wasteland beast's eyes were filled with fear and trepidation. It kept retreating, but Yi Qinghan kept pressing forward. The deeper he went, the stronger the medicinal properties of the divine herbs became, and the older they were, and the higher their grade. Yi Qinghan needed to plunder the most precious divine herbs. The Yin-Yang 8 trigrams reincarnation seal on his body spun faster and faster, madly absorbing the medicinal properties of the divine herbs. Everywhere he passed, there was a deathly stillness, and there was no more life. Even the ancient trees couldn't escape this calamity. His speed of plundering the vitality of the divine herbs was faster and crueler. Everywhere he passed, not even a blade of grass grew. He was even crueler than the wasteland beast. Li Feng and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. The amount of divine herbs Yi Qinghan had absorbed was enough for any one of them to explode, but he still felt that it wasn't enough. If he continued absorbing at this rate, he would probably exhaust the source of the great desolate mountain. Roar! 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 The wasteland beast was anxious, but it didn't dare to fight Yi Qinghan head-on. If it didn't have intelligence and didn't understand the concept of a paramount god, it might have attacked. But at its level, it understood what a paramount god meant, so even though it was confused, it didn't dare to attack. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan continued to press forward, plundering the resources within tens of thousands of miles. He was almost at the depths of the great desolate mountain. The reincarnation divine spark had officially taken shape, and it emitted a faint divine aura, deterring the wasteland beast from acting rashly. The four of them followed closely behind, not daring to let their guard down. The wasteland beast was too terrifying, and if they couldn't suppress it, it could take their lives at any time. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and adjusted his state of mind. Facing such a vicious beast, he could only rely on acting tough to intimidate it. With just strength, this wasteland beast could kill the five of them with a single slap. Wasteland beast, are you trying to oppose me? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. The wasteland beast howled in grief, but it didn't dare to charge at Yi Qinghan. It could only retreat, but the anger in its eyes could hardly be suppressed. I'll just take some resources. You don't have to worry. Yi Qinghan scanned the surroundings and found a few enlightenment divine orchids. He knew that they were close to the depths, and if they went any deeper, there would be chaos giant god-level divine herbs everywhere. How could he not take the supreme treasures when he was in the depths of the treasure trove? Swish! Yi Qinghan casually took 3 enlightenment divine orchids, but he didn't harm their foundation. He stored them in his yin and yang ring. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, the wasteland beast was relieved, and its hostility towards Yi Qinghan also weakened. However, Yi Qinghan's following words made it furious. Go deeper and help me take a few Chaos Supreme treasures and Chaos Giant God weapon materials, Yi Qinghan ordered in a low voice. Chapter 1042. Go into the depths and help me retrieve a few chaos treasures and materials for the chaos giant divine weapon." Yi Qinghan's orders were unquestionable. Divine light poured down from the heavens like a waterfall, bathing him in divine light. His majestic aura shook the world, and the giant wild beast didn't dare to act recklessly. Roar. Although the giant wild beast's eyes were filled with anger, it was still filled with fear. "You have your duties, and I have my needs. Don't make me go in and retrieve them myself," Yi Qinghan said coldly. The giant wild beast bared its teeth and hesitated for a moment. Finally, it turned around and charged into the depth. Seeing the giant wild beast gallop away, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This was the most dangerous time he'd ever acted tough, but returning empty-handed from a treasure trove wasn't his style. Li Feng and the others rushed in and came to Yi Qinghan's side. They looked at the divine splendor in the depths, and the divinity emitted by countless divine medicines attracted all living beings. They really wanted to rush in and plunder it. "Can the 5 of us defeat this wild beast together?" "There must be a problem at the end of the giant wild beast," Jiang Jingtian said excitedly. Li Feng, Zixian, and Dong Qin were also very excited. They hoped to explore deeper, and now they looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said in a low voice, "This is the strongest creature I've ever seen. It's definitely the #1 existence below the overgod level. The 5 of us together can't even withstand a single slap from it. Right now, it's just intimidated by my special aura. Let's get the treasure and retreat immediately. The longer we stay with it, the more dangerous it will be." "What's the origin of this giant wild beast? How come I've never heard of it before? Also, my race has lived here for so many years, and it hasn't appeared before," Jiang Jingtian said in surprise. "The creature guarding the entrance to Hell is the ferocious pet of the Lord of Hell. The Lord of Hell is dead, so it's now an ownerless creature. However, deep in its heart, it has always carried out its duty to guard Hell. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's the only overgod now." Some memory fragments automatically appeared in Yi Qinghan's mind, and he calmly said them. But when he thought about them carefully, he didn't know anything. "Then which overgod are you the reincarnation of?" Dong Qin was like a curious baby as she stared at Yi Qinghan. She couldn't recall such a person from the primal chaos era. Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and Zixian were also looking forward to Yi Qinghan's answer. Yi Qinghan furrowed his brows and thought for a long time, but he still could not figure it out. Only a few memory fragments came to him, but he could not think of anything else. If he could, he would be the first person to prove that reincarnation existed and could be reincarnated. "I don't know, but I feel that I was the one who erected that stone tablet," Yi Qinghan said with certainty. The Great Wasteland's stone tablet on the other side of the valley was a very ordinary stone tablet. There was nothing special about it except for 3 words. However, it had survived for dozens of eras without collapsing. Obviously, it was not that simple. Time flew by, and another rumble came from the depths of the Great Wastelands. The Great Wastelands beast came riding on the wind. It was mighty and majestic, like a god descending. However, there was a huge piece of divine metal in its mouth. It appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. Boom! The Great Wastelands beast threw the piece of divine metal that was about 3 meters long and half a meter in diameter. It smashed in front of Yi Qinghan and the others, directly smashing the mountain rocks into pieces. The ground caved in dozens of meters deep. It was obvious how heavy this piece of divine metal was. Whoosh! Immediately after, the Great Wastelands beast threw out a human-shaped sacred medicine. It looked like a ginseng, but its whole body was blood-red, just like a real person. It was almost about to transform. It was even more terrifying than the one Jiang Jingtian had. Once it transformed, it would be a primal chaos god, a true primal chaos god, an existence strong enough to tear apart the abyss. Roar! The great wastelands beast roared angrily and retreated 100 meters. It bared its fangs, as if it would attack Yi Qinghan if he dared to approach. Yi Qinghan reached out and caught the blood ginseng that was about to transform. Its dense vitality was vast and mighty. Even a small piece could allow a great wastelands expert to be reborn. At the very least, it could extend their lifespan by 1,000 years. Most importantly, this blood ginseng contained the dense mysteries of hell and reincarnation. It could allow one to comprehend the great Tao of reincarnation with half the effort. It was only about 3 inches long, but Yi Qinghan knew that this divine medicine was a primal chaos treasure. Even a small piece could bring someone back to life. When he touched the blood ginseng, the surface of his body was covered in a clear and visible reincarnation vortex. Any attack would be drawn into the reincarnation vortex, unable to harm him at all. At this moment, the great wastelands beast's eyes were filled with reverence. It actually showed signs of wanting to submit. However, as powerful as it was, it quickly reacted and retreated. Yi Qinghan put away the blood ginseng. The veins on his body bulged as he grabbed at the divine metal in the depths of the stone pit. That piece of divine metal weighed millions of kilograms and was like a huge mountain. Boom, boom, boom. The divine metal was grabbed by Yi Qinghan. The heavens and earth rumbled and the great wastelands mountain trembled. What a heavy divine metal! Yi Qinghan said hoarsely to himself. He regretted asking for such a good material. This thing was enough to forge more than 10 giant divine weapons. The key was that this thing was too difficult to condense and required a lot of time. The grade of this thing was too high. According to the memory fragments transmitted to him, Yi Qinghan could confirm that this divine metal was a product of hell. It absorbed the vigorous blood energy and the essence of the world. It contained the mysteries of hell and reincarnation and was called the reincarnation divine metal. Let's go. Yi Qinghan picked up the reincarnation divine metal and left. Every step he took left a footprint in the mountain. The great wastelands mountain was a land of death for all living things. It allowed Yi Qinghan to step on it and then turn to leave. The great wastelands beast did not dare to stop him. Seeing Yi Qinghan leave, it heaved a sigh of relief. It was afraid that he would force his way through. There was not much spiritual energy left in the great wastelands mountain. All the divine herbs had been plundered by Yi Qinghan. It was a mess. The 5 of them quickly returned to the valley. Yi Qinghan's body relaxed as he threw the divine metal into the valley. Damn, that scared me to death. Although snatching food from the tiger's mouth was rich, it was too king exciting. Yi Qinghan sat down beside the great wasteland's stone steel. His face was pale and his hands and feet were trembling. Jiang Jingtian and the others did not feel that it was that scary. That was because the great wastelands beast did not dare to reveal its true strength in front of Yi Qinghan. They also did not know what level the great wastelands beast was at. They only had one concept in their hearts. The paramount god was the strongest, and the great wastelands beast was not a paramount god. It was just a giant god that was slightly stronger than them. Is that creature really that strong? You even dare to curse the heavenly Tao, but you're actually afraid of a great wastelands beast? Jiang Jingtian looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. The great wastelands beast was right in front of him. It could slap him to death at any time. The heavenly Tao was only acting according to its own rules. The heavenly Tao had restrictions, but the great wastelands beast did not. If the great wastelands beast was not afraid of my previous life, then the 5 of us together would not even last 3 breaths of time. We would have been turned into a pile of bones. You don't understand the difference between a paramount god and a giant god. A paramount god can kill several giant gods with a single thought. This great wastelands beast is already half a step into the paramount god realm. Even the first-generation ethereal body might not have been able to gain an advantage against it. Yi Qinghan said. Chapter 1043. Yi Qinghan explained the origin and strength of the desolate beast. Jiang Jingtian and the others were not idiot. They could imagine how powerful a creature of that level was, so they did not think too much about it. Yi Qinghan leaned against the great wasteland's stone stele and calmed himself down. He turned his head to look at the great wasteland's stone stele and was stunned. He seemed to have thought of something, and that feeling of déjà vu lingered in his heart for a long time. The patterns on the great wasteland's stone stele were abnormally clear and filled with the aura of wastelands. It was as if everything was in primal chaos. That hazy feeling was difficult to understand, and it entangled his heart, causing Yi Qinghan great pain. How can this be? I feel that this great wasteland's stone stele contains some kind of divine ability. It is very familiar, and I feel that I can comprehend it with just a touch. But I can't understand it. Yi Qinghan said with a frown. Let's take it away and slowly understand it when we get back, Li Feng suggested. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. His hands grabbed the sides of the stone stele, and his veins bulged. His dragon blood burned, and he exerted his strength. His arms were almost dislocated, but they did not move the great wasteland's stone stele in the slightest. Humph! Yi Qinghan felt that his thigh joints were almost torn apart. He groaned in pain and quickly gave up on the great wasteland's stone stele. He retreated 2 meters and saw that the stone stele did not move at all. Even the ground did not move at all. He could not help but be shocked. Yi Qinghan's body could uproot mountains. He was already a peak existence among humans, but he could not even move a stone stele. It was simply inconceivable. Let's try it together. Jiang Jingtian merged with the baby Qilin. His primal chaos divinity was vast and mighty, and his divine splendor covered the 9 heavens. He was extremely powerful. Me too. Li Feng clenched his iron fists and supported Jiang Jingtian on one side. Yi Qinghan came to the other side and looked at each other. With 3 peak physical body experts working together, let alone a stone stele, they could even uproot a 10,000-foot tall mountain. Ready? Let's go. Yi Qinghan growled. The 3 of them twisted their waists at the same time, causing the rocks beneath their feet to shatter. However, an aura of desolation suddenly surged out from the great wasteland's monument. A gust of air swept up the 3 of them and sent them flying 100 meters away. They crashed into the rocks, causing them to feel dizzy. Puff! The 3 of them coughed up blood at the same time. Blood began to spurt out from their 7 orifices. They climbed up from the ground in a sorry state. They twisted their bodies and grimaced in pain. What a hard stone stele! The runes on the stele seemed to contain both defensive and offensive power. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath as he stared at the treasure trove in front of him, but was unable to move it. He felt quite vexed. Zixin was silent for a long time. He could not imagine that there was such an overgod in the primal chaos era. This aura of desolation was clearly the aura of the primal chaos era, which meant that the overgods had not yet been born. At that time, the power was extremely pure. Not even the great demonic god or the sorcerer god had comprehended this power. This stone monument was clearly man-made. However, Yi Qinghan was very certain that he had erected this monument in his previous life. The profound mysteries of desolation are a transcendent power that not even the 21 overgods have comprehended. Brother Qinghan, are you sure that this monument was left behind by you? Zixin asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He shook his head and said, I'm not sure. I just feel that it's very familiar and intimate. It feels as if it can merge with me. I'm very puzzled. Even if you were the one who erected this monument, I can imagine that your divine power has already surpassed that of a overgod. You should be able to transcend this world. How did you die? Why did you reincarnate? I find it very difficult to understand the many mysteries surrounding you. Zixian had the longest inheritance. Now that he thought about it, Yi Qinghan was completely different from the others. His strength did not seem to be outstanding, but he was able to win every time. To him, his luck was heaven-defying. But to others, he was a jinx. Wherever he went, trouble would follow. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He pulled out the divine bird, the little money grubber, and the little chaos beast. The three of them were all soul inheritances. They were the clearest about the chaos era. Do you know who used the power of desolation in the chaos era? Yi Qinghan asked in a serious tone. Desolation? The divine bird raised its head and pondered for a moment. Its voice dragged out as if it had recalled something. Yi Qinghan was immediately overjoyed. He hurriedly asked, You remember? There must not have been many people who used the power of desolation back then. Tell me, who were there? I can't remember. There is no one who used the power of desolation in my memory. The divine bird said irritatingly. Everyone could not help but roll their eyes. This fellow was simply asking for a beating. Even if it could not remember, it still made such an expression. The little money grubber glared at the divine bird in disdain. The little chaos beast sneered. It raised its little paw and made a disdainful gesture. It did not say anything else. Yi Qinghan shrugged. It seemed that he had overestimated these three little fellas to solve the mystery. Yi Qinghan stared at the Great Wastelands monument once again. He wanted to give up, but there was a voice in his heart that was screaming for him to take away the Great Wastelands monument. Could it be that this Great Wastelands monument has other mysteries? Yi Qinghan lowered his head and pondered. His fingertips touched the Great Wastelands monument's veins. His consciousness wanted to follow the veins of the Great Wastelands monument to explore its interior. However, the moment he touched the Great Wastelands monument, he felt a sharp pain in his soul. He hurriedly retracted his consciousness. Since you think it can fuse with you, try dripping your blood on it to claim ownership. Dong Qin's eyes suddenly flashed as she reminded him. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He had actually forgotten the simplest method. He immediately pulled out his sword and slashed it across his finger. Dragon blood splattered everywhere and bathed the Great Wastelands monument. Boom, roar, a divine radiance soared into the sky. The power of desolates that had yet to open poured down like a waterfall, enveloping the entire abyss world. Many powerful beasts knelt down in fright. They howled in grief and did not dare to stand. In the depths of the great desolate mountain, the desolate beasts howled in grief and retreated. A tragic melody appeared between the heavens and earth. It seemed to be shouting, but it also seemed to be panicking. Thump, thump. Yi Qinghan's heartbeat suddenly sped up by several hundred times. His heart was about to burst. The dragon blood in his body boiled and burned. The speed at which it flowed almost broke through the shackles of his body. 1. Countless profound inscriptions appeared on the Great Wastelands monument. They formed runes that blasted into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness one by one. Great Wastelands Tao Scripture. Before the primal chaos was born, everything was desolate. The one who controls the power of desolates is the master of desolates. A line of small words appeared on the Great Wastelands monument. It constantly rotated, as if it was a reincarnation cycle. Looking at it would cause one to be sucked into the cycle of reincarnation and perish. Zixian and other super-existences felt as if their souls were about to die. They hurriedly turned their heads away, not daring to look directly at it. Yi Qinghan stared fixedly at the Great Wastelands monument. The abstruse runes were like roaming dragons and phoenixes. They brought with them the power to destroy the heavens and earth as they blasted into his body. The reaction of the Great Wastelands monument was a little beyond Yi Qinghan's imagination. It actually resonated with the abyss world. Originally, there were only 3 words on the monument, but now many runes and abstruse words appeared out of thin air. The transcendental power of desolates suppressed all living things the moment it appeared. Boom! The Great Wastelands monument suddenly rose from the ground and turned into an imprint that imprinted itself on Yi Qinghan's forehead. It was like a miniature Great Wastelands monument that stole one's soul. It gradually sank into his sea of consciousness and stood firmly on the sea of bitterness. Chapter 1044. The Great Wastelands tablet rushed into Yi Qinghan's forehead and disappeared in a flash, as if it had always been one. Zixian was dumbfounded. She had only managed to see the words on the Great Wastelands monument. Now that her eyes were filled with blood, she was the only one who could see some traces. Lord of Desolation. It seems that Yi Qinghan's predecessor was the so-called Master of the Wilds. But why wasn't he among the 21 overgods? Could it be that there are more than 21 overgods in this world? Zixian wiped away the blood in his eyes. His eyes were dim, and his heart was in turmoil. He couldn't describe the shock in his heart. After all, she was a true descendant of the Violet Emperor, the successor of all of the paramount gods of the past. You are not a overgod that I know of. Are you from the Chaosverse or not? How did you die back then? Zixian was full of doubts at this moment, and all kinds of ominous premonitions arose in his heart. Although Yi Qinghan had absorbed the Great Wasteland steel, he did not have any more memories of his past life. With his current soul, there was no way he could withstand the overgod's imprint from back then. I don't know. Yi Qinghan's aura was filled with the vicissitudes of life, and his hoarse voice sounded like a completely different person. Li Feng, Dong Qin, and the others felt their hair stand on end as they turned to stare at Yi Qinghan. If they weren't familiar with him, they would have thought that he was a different person. Zixian frowned as she stared at Yi Qinghan, as if she could see something in his eyes. Yi Qinghan shrugged. The 21 that Zixian mentioned were all famous. Apart from a few overgods that he had never heard of before, he had heard of the others. They were either the human ancestor from the beginning of the chaos, or divine beasts or sacred beasts, existences that could cover the sky with a wave of their hand. As for where the Master of the Wilds came from, only the Pan clan, Demon God Mountain, or the Shaman tribe knew the specifics. Perhaps even they didn't know. After the commotion just now, the powerful beasts of the Abyss world should have appeared. Let's go back. It's too dangerous here, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Zixian also knew that this place had become abnormally dangerous. If they stayed any longer, there would definitely be problems. Thus, she didn't linger on the supreme treasures and divine herbs and chose to leave. Yi Qinghan carried the divine reincarnation steel rod, and the 5 of them returned the way they came. Yi Qinghan had improved over the past few days and had an additional godhead. There was also an additional Great Wastelands tablet in his body. The heavenly punishment might not be able to harm him. They rushed all the way and appeared at the entrance of the Abyss world. Yi Qinghan soared into the sky and stomped on the rock wall, causing it to collapse. His body was like a rainbow as he rushed out of Deep Heaven City and through the divine reincarnation steel rod outside the city. The dark clouds gathered again as if they were staring at him. No matter how he moved, the tribulation clouds above would move with him. The tribulation clouds would only dissipate when he dove into the entrance of the Abyss world. After trying a few times, Yi Qinghan seemed to understand that the heavenly Tao's lightning punishment seemed to be forcing him back into the Abyss world. Yi Qinghan touched the tip of his nose. He couldn't understand why the heavenly Tao wanted to force him back into the Abyss world. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Li Feng and the other 3 rushed out of the Abyss world and disappeared in a flash. They stood on the city walls of Deep Heaven City and saw that the heavenly Tao's divine punishment was still so persistent. They were even more curious about Yi Qinghan's identity. They didn't understand what kind of sin this great desolation lord had committed to be so envied by the heavens. Yi Qinghan flew into a rage out of humiliation. He soared into the sky and rushed into the clouds. Soon, he was blasted down by the dense lightning. His body emitted black smoke and his hair was like steel needles. At this moment, the great wasteland's tablet seemed to have been blasphemed. It swayed gently in his sea of consciousness and spun continuously. The sea of bitterness churned and some memory fragments rushed out again. Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly changed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan's palms formed a seal and streaked across his forehead. The great wasteland's tablet gradually appeared on his forehead. Although it was only the size of a fingernail, it contained a terrifying aura of desolation. The power of desolation was vast and mighty like a river, sweeping up the divine robe. The power within the godhood was rapidly transforming. The lightning that blasted into his body was also forcefully transformed into the power of desolation and gathered within the godhood. Now, the 14 godhoods were arranged according to the order of the great Tao. They were disorderly and emitted light like a vast galaxy. However, if one looked carefully at the sea of bitterness, one could see that there was a relatively small godhood that was almost negligible. Even Yi Qinghan himself didn't notice that the godhood was surrounded by the power of desolation. This godhood didn't provide any divine power or power of desolation. It was silently nurturing itself in the sea of bitterness. If not for the naked eye, one's spiritual sense wouldn't be able to sense it. It was as if it was a part of Yi Qinghan's body. If Zixian were to probe Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness, he would recognize that this was his natal godhood, the Desolation Godhood. The Desolation Godhood was unique in the world. Besides Yi Qinghan, no one else had ever condensed it. Perhaps it wasn't condensed at all, but came with the Great Wasteland's tablet. When the Great Wasteland's tablet appeared in front of his forehead, the tribulation clouds above immediately dissipated as if they had never appeared. Yi Qinghan looked at the sky in astonishment. He didn't expect the heavenly punishment to disappear just like that. This isn't the heavenly punishment. It wants me to retrieve the Great Wasteland's tablet? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself, trying to guess the true purpose of the heavenly Tao. Zixian and the others were speechless. They couldn't imagine it. It seemed that the heavenly Tao knew about the Great Wasteland's tablet and the Lord of Desolation. Otherwise, the heavenly punishment wouldn't have retreated the moment it saw the Great Wasteland's tablet. The Great Wasteland's tablet, which could make the heavenly Tao retreat, was very powerful. It might be the first over-god artifact to appear in history. Whether it was the Demon God Mountain or the Sorcerer Tribe, their over-god artifacts were supreme treasures used to suppress their ancestral lands. Unless it was a matter of life and death, who would dare to use an over-god artifact? Even if they wanted to use an over-god artifact, they would need to have over-god power. How could they be as relaxed as Yi Qinghan? Over-god artifact. His Great Wasteland's tablet is actually an over-god artifact. Zixian clenched her fists in excitement. She didn't expect to see an over-god artifact. One must know how precious an over-god artifact was. As a descendant of the Violet Emperor, she had never seen the Violet Emperor's natal divine weapon. Dong Qin's mouth twitched. She had also discovered that the Great Wasteland's tablet was an over-god artifact. As for Jiang Jingtian and Li Feng, who didn't have enough inheritances, they didn't think it was an over-god artifact at all. Yi Qinghan glanced at the experts on the city walls. The pressure in his eyes caused Jiang Jingtian and the others to feel as if their hearts were being squeezed. His eyes were too sharp, making it impossible for them to look straight at him. Yi Qinghan smiled and withdrew his divine power. The Great Wasteland's tablet quickly returned to his sea of consciousness. The Desolation Godhood quickly entered the Great Wasteland's tablet, but Yi Qinghan still didn't discover this special godhood. P.S. Added a new name. Edited. Chapter 1045. His smile was like the first ray of sunshine in spring, gentle and warm. It made Zixin and Dongqin's heartbeat speed up a lot. Their faces were flushed, and their breasts were heaving up and down. Yi Qinghan carried the divine iron and gently leaped onto the city wall. He looked at Li Feng and grinned. "Brother, I'm ahead of you for now." Li Feng shrugged and nodded. He was no longer Yi Qinghan's opponent. There was no doubt about it. Yi Qinghan looked at Jiang Jingtian and the others and said with a smile, "Let's pay a visit to the Supreme Elder of the 10,000 Laws domain. Senior Bai, I owe him a favor. Today I'll return a big gift to him. If you're interested, you can come with me to the Endless Star System to play. I want to adjust the strategy. I'd like to see the Guangzhou." Jiang Jingtian stretched out his hand and pulled out the Spear of Time from his back. He handed it to Yi Qinghan and said with a smile, "Thank you for giving me this giant divine weapon, Brother Yi. I don't need it now, so I'll return it to you." "No need, I don't need it for the time being. This divine iron is enough for me to make a giant divine weapon for each of you, and one that won't lose to a life-bound divine weapon," Yi Qinghan said excitedly. Jiang Jingtian didn't refuse. It was a chaotic world now. Without a suitable weapon, it was equivalent to losing to someone of the same level. He carried the spear on his back again. Yi Qinghan didn't break the contract with the Spear of Time. After all, it still had to be returned to the 6 gods Dao sect. The 5 of them didn't stay. They used the space gate to go directly to the city of 10,000 Laws and entered the 10,000 Laws domain. As soon as he entered the all-in-one sect, Yi Qinghan felt a sharp pain in his heart. His nose felt sour as Bai Xiaoxing's eyes and smile appeared in his mind. Sigh, a low sigh made heaven and earth cry, and 10,000 laws followed. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. Carrying the divine reincarnation medal, he crushed the mountain rocks and went straight to the scripture depository. As expected, the Grand Elder was still lying on the chair. However, there was not much life left in him. When the Grand Elder saw that Yi Qinghan had grown stronger, he couldn't help but reveal a satisfied smile. He said in a hoarse voice, "It's good that you're back. Otherwise, this old man would have died with regret." Yi Qinghan put down the godly medal and knelt on one knee in front of the Grand Elder. He said respectfully, "Senior, what are you talking about? It's too inauspicious. Silly child, this old man is already past his prime. I thought that I wouldn't be able to wait for you to come back. Now that you're back, I can rest in peace." The Grand Elder's wrinkled hand raised slightly and stroked Yi Qinghan's hair. His turbid eyes looked at the sky as if he saw reincarnation. Suddenly, his face was full of glory. Yi Qinghan hurriedly took out the blood ginseng from his yin and yang ring and said respectfully, "Senior, this is a gift from me on behalf of Shaoxing. Please eat it. It should be able to extend your lifespan by 10,000 years." Looking at the blood ginseng, the Grand Elder's eyes were filled with gratification. However, he didn't take it. Instead, he lowered his head to look at Yi Qinghan and said sadly, "Qinghan, you were able to help my 10,000 arts return to one sect tide over this crisis. This means that I didn't misjudge you. You were able to give me such a sacred medicine. This means that Shaoxing didn't misjudge you. Unfortunately, Yi Lui was immature and caused you to suffer for the rest of your life. He caused Shaoxing to die prematurely. Senior, how do you know that you can't save me if you don't try? My life was given to me by you and Saint Shaoxing, so what is a stalk of divine herb?" Yi Qinghan was very sad. If he could save the Grand Supreme Elder, perhaps he would feel less guilty. "Don't waste it. I'm already satisfied that you have the heart. The most successful thing I've done in my life is allowing you to enter the scripture pavilion." The Grand Elder smiled, but his smile was filled with sorrow, vicissitudes, and helplessness. Qinghan, promise me. Don't hate Yi Lui. For the sake of me and Shaoxing, protect the 10,000 arts returned to one sex inheritance. Is that okay? The Grand Elder looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly, hoping to get a positive answer. Yi Qinghan's breath stagnated. His heart was filled with sorrow. Seeing the vitality in the Grand Elder's eyes slowly dissipating, he couldn't help but nod and say, Senior, don't worry. As long as I don't fall, the 10,000 arts returned to one sect will definitely not fall. Okay. Thank you. If I can see Shaoxing, I will definitely tell her that you are worth her life. The Grand Elder's glory disappeared in an instant. His face was filled with death spots. His old hand slid down from Yi Qinghan's head. The corner of his mouth revealed a relieved smile. He was actually so pitiful. Buzz, a generation of heroes transformed into the Tao. Heaven and earth wailed. The 10,000 arts returned to one sect rumbled. The tragic melody was vast and mighty. The entire 10,000 arts returned to one sect seemed to have sensed it. The ancient bell rumbled and cries filled the air. Senior! Yi Qinghan hugged the blood ginseng and knelt down. Tears flowed down his face uncontrollably. He knew that he couldn't repay this kindness. Farewell, Senior. Farewell. Zixien and Dongqin knelt down at the same time. They placed their hands on the ground and respectfully kowtowed 9 times. Farewell, Senior. Farewell. Li Feng and Jiang Jingtian knelt down. They didn't kneel to the heavens or the earth. Instead, they knelt to the heroic spirit. Ancestor. Bai Yelu, Bai Fengyun, and the other elders of the 10,000 arts returned to one sect rushed over in grief. For so many years, the 10,000 arts returned to one sect had relied on the remains of their Grand Elder to stand proudly in the Chaosverse. Now that he was gone, the entire 10,000 arts returned to one sect, and the 10,000 arts returned to one sect fell into a sorrowful atmosphere. It didn't take long for the news to spread throughout the Chaosverse that a prime elder of the 10,000 Magic Unity sect had died. Every major power in the Chaosverse knew about it, and some were grieving. Another expert of the older generation had perished, and there were fewer and fewer people in his generation. Yi Qinghan took a long time to calm down. He wiped away his tears and put away the blood ginseng. He said hoarsely, My condolences, Senior. Notify me of the funeral and I will definitely come to pay respects to Senior. Yes. Thank you, Qinghan, for letting bygones be bygones. This old man has let down the patriarch, let down my daughter, and let down each and every one of you. Bai Yelu seemed to have aged quite a bit. Tears streamed down his face. Let bygones be bygones. I owe your Bai family. Yi Qinghan didn't want to talk anymore and was about to leave. At that moment, Bai Yelu suddenly said in a hurry, The Azura domain and the endless star system have encountered some trouble recently. Many unknown forces have quietly appeared and a large number of unknown experts have emerged. They are challenging everywhere. Even the Demon God Mountain and the Shaman race can't avoid challenges. Their bodies have been crippled. Now, some people are challenging the Azura domain and the endless star system. The Azura King is in seclusion and the Azura domain is about to be crippled. Taoist Emperor Yi, Taoist Gu Qingyu, and the others have already fought several times. Yi Qinghan's aura changed. He immediately said, Open the realm gate and send me to the Azura domain. Chapter 1046. In order to form an alliance with the insane sect, the unifying sect had built a teleportation array in the sect that could reach the endless star system. Yi Qinghan led the 5 of them through the gate and were teleported to the central region of the endless star system. The endless star system was bleak. In recent days, many heroes had risen and constantly issued challenges. Most of them were from the sacred domain. They had hidden themselves from the world, but now they wanted to rise up and defeat all the masters in the open. Even the young masters of the demon god mountain and the sorcerer tribe were provoked. These young heroes all had powerful Tao protectors behind them, and their bloodlines were exalted. There was no lack of paramount god bloodlines in the giant god level, and their fighting prowess far exceeded that of the current giant god level. In fact, they even surpassed the giant gods of the primal chaos era. None of the older generation of the forces dared to fight these young people. They could only rely on the younger generation. If the young masters of the chaos plane fought, the loser would die. Some of the top holy lands that had emerged recently were related to the overgods of the past. They were either the right-hand families of the overgods or the collateral descendants of the overgods. Their cultivation was terrifying, and they were all kings. Coupled with the overgod families behind them, they did not care about other forces. Back then, the alliance of the 9 great auction houses did not have much of a solid foundation, and it was directly divided by several powerful holy lands. The Songhai alliance was also on the verge of collapse. Now, most of the geniuses had their eyes fixed on the Guangzong, who was at the peak of his power. There were too many young heroes in the insane sect, and only Emperor Yi was the inheritor of the Chaos Giant God. They did not have a huge family to back them up. As long as Emperor Yi was defeated, the insane sect would collapse. It was just that the true heirs of the Overgod had yet to appear, but many of their followers had appeared. Since Emperor Yi could not defeat one of them, he had to challenge them one after another. This exhausted Emperor Yi. As time passed, Emperor Yi would not be able to hold on any longer, and the insane sect's momentum would plummet. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the gate and changed into the Shura King costume. He put on the Shura mask and pulled out the Shura blade. He said to Li Feng and the others in a hoarse voice, "Go to the insane sect. Kill everyone who challenges the insane sect. Leave no one alive. Don't worry, leave it to us." Li Feng gripped his divine sword and turned to Li Jiang Jingtian and the others towards Owl Warstar. Yi Qinghan stealthily moved alone. He crossed the endless star system and entered the Azura domain. Many unfamiliar faces had appeared in the Azura realm. The once prosperous Azura realm had now become a place where everyone was in danger. The Azura king had gone into seclusion, and the Azura battle squad had no choice but to work together to resist. Great sovereign Azura had fought with all his might, but not only had he failed to reverse the situation, he had even attracted more and more powerful existences. The Azura battle squad had almost been crippled, and great sovereign Azura himself had been severely injured. Outside the Shura sect, many powerhouses were cruising around, insulting and provoking the Shura king in an attempt to force him out. Yi Qinghan was wearing the Azura mask and the Azura robe. He was standing on a mountain peak opposite the Azura sect. His sharp eyes were overlooking the area in front of him. He could see every movement clearly. The Azura sect's defensive array had been activated. Not far away, the Six Paths auction house had also been destroyed. No one dared to accept the challenge. The morale of the people was low, and they were in a precarious state. If this continued, the Azura region would fall apart and become someone else's territory. Crack! Yi Qinghan clenched his fist hard. The low-level Azura saber was crushed right away. His divine fire burned the shards and melted them into liquid metal, fusing them with the mountain rocks. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan leaped down and rushed to the foot of the Azura sect's mountain. There happened to be a young man in strange attire in front of him. There were a few half-step lords with decent cultivation bases as his followers. The group of people was insulting and provoking him. There was no end to their profanities. There were many spies around as well. They wanted to see how the Azura region would resolve the crisis. They wanted to know if the powerful Azura king was truly in closed-door cultivation or if he dared not accept the challenge. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan walked toward the group of powerhouses, crushing the mountain rocks beneath his feet. The powerful giant god young man turned around indifferently and looked at Yi Qinghan coldly. he asked disdainfully. "You're the Azura King? I thought you were used to being a coward and wouldn't dare accept the challenge." "Young master, let me take on this so-called Azura King first and see if he's worth your time." The follower next to the young man drew his sword to show off. "Very well. I'm a ruler after all. Heavenly King Ying, not just anyone is worth my time," Heavenly King Ying said arrogantly. Yi Qinghan's eyes were cold and sharp as he looked at Heavenly King Ying. His cultivation base was indeed powerful, equivalent to some of the inner sect powerhouses. As for the few scumbags next to him, Yi Qinghan thought nothing of them. "Come at me all at once." "I'm in a hurry," Yi Qinghan said coldly. "You have a death wish." The follower's sword was as fast as lightning. Indeed, he was more powerful than an ordinary half-step lord. The sword gleam tore through the air and appeared before Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's divine robes fluttered, and the sword chi dissipated into nothingness. He reached out and grabbed the divine sword. With a gentle shake, he twisted the divine sword into a fried dough twist. The high temperature melted the divine sword. It seemed like an ordinary attack, but the follower's throat was gripped by a large hand before he could even react. Crack! With the crisp sound of bones breaking, the follower's throat was crushed by Yi Qinghan. He lifted his thumb gently, and a gust of divine power with a terrifying will blasted into the follower's mind. It destroyed the follower's soul and his godhead as easily as crushing dry weeds. Whoosh! The follower's corpse fell limp to the ground. His eyes were filled with terror and despair. Yi Qinghan stepped over the corpse. His eyes pierced through the void, and with a destructive will, they blasted into the consciousnesses of the followers next to Heavenly King Ying. The 5 followers let out a low grunt and fell limp to the ground. They were deader than dead. A powerhouse could kill someone with just a look and a thought. They were only half-step lords. The difference between them and Yi Qinghan was too great. Heavenly King Ying's pupils shrank, and he took a few steps back. Only then did he realize that Yi Qinghan was on the same level as the direct descendants of the Overgod. He had bitten off more than he could chew. Azura King. Heavenly King Ying was shocked. He roared hoarsely, trying to take advantage of the situation. However, before he could finish, he saw Yi Qinghan raise his hand gently. In a flash, he punched Heavenly King Ying's throat. Bang! Crack! Heavenly King Ying's neck was broken right away. The order of his physical body was destroyed, and he died completely. His godhead was shattered into pieces by a special force, and his soul died on the spot. If you don't even dare to fight a powerhouse, how can you call yourself a ruler? Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and a flame covered the corpses, burning them into nothingness. The Azura sect seemed to have discovered the Azura King. They immediately roared, and the defensive barrier opened. A group of people came out to greet him. However, Yi Qinghan did not enter the sect right away. Instead, he moved, shattering the mountain rocks under his feet, and charged toward the other group of forces wandering outside the Azura sect. He broke the bodies of powerhouses with a raise of his hand, and kicked a giant god's body into pieces, sending him crashing into the mountains. He was extremely ruthless. Boom! 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 Chapter 1047. Yi Qinghan consecutively killed dozens of experts, all of whom were elite kings from first-rate factions. The surrounding spies were so frightened by the baleful aura that their faces turned pale. They didn't dare to move. Yi Qinghan swept his gaze across the crowd, his sharp gaze fixed on the group of spies. He said in a cold voice, "Go back and tell your masters that from today onwards, the Azura region is a forbidden area. If anyone dares to provoke me again, I will kill them all on sight." The spies didn't say anything else and immediately fled. Yi Qinghan returned to the Azura sect and ordered people to set up defenses to prevent experts from forcefully entering the endless star system. The Azura region was the first line of defense for the endless star system. The Azura region's borders stretched for billions of miles. Yi Qinghan set up 9 big passes and several small passes. The 9 passes surrounded the Azura region, and the entrance to the endless star system was also sealed. The Azura region's powerful eruption caused the entire universe to go silent. The Azura king had killed so many elites from powerful sects, but he had also provoked some powerful sections. In the endless star system, the Owl Dragon region had 5 powerful elites that weren't much weaker than Emperor Yi. There were also more than 30 giant god-level existences. They continuously challenged, and if they lost, they would switch to another person. The Guangzhong sect was beaten to the point of exhaustion. They relied on their numbers and took turns to fight the Guangzhong sect. The leader was the Iron Eagle descendant of the Karma Supreme God, the Iron Force King. He represented the Karma Sacred Land and wanted to beat the Guangzhong sect into submission. He wanted to subdue the Supreme Inheritor, Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi fought 3 battles in a row. Although he won all of them, he couldn't kill those people. He also couldn't use his full strength. This was because apart from the Iron Force King, the Owl Dragon region still had a top young expert hidden, waiting to ambush him when he was tired. Di Longtian, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, and the others were already injured. Xia Ziluo and Xia Qiue had joined hands and killed a giant god. Even the corpse was crushed by Xia Ziluo. Once someone died, both sides' killing intent was unleashed. The Iron Force King's aura turned cold. He stared at the siblings and sneered. Since my sacred land came out of seclusion, we've swept through 3 regions. This is the first time someone has died, and it was a giant god. Guangzhong sect, I've given you enough patience. I'll ask you one last time. Submit or die. Emperor Yi frowned and asked in a very dissatisfied tone, Iron Force King, are you speaking to me on behalf of the Karma Overgod? Are you still speaking to me? Lord. Overlord. Of course, I am here on behalf of the heir of the Karma Overgod. If you submit to my young master, you will still be an Overgod in the future. If you don't submit, my young master will come personally. I'm afraid the insane sect will have a hard time, Iron King said calmly. It was as if he didn't care about the heir of the Chaos Dragon. We're both Overgod heirs. Do you really think I'll submit? Don't make me angry. Take your people and get the hell out of the endless star system. Otherwise, I'll make you all stay here. Emperor Yi said angrily. Ha ha, Lord. Emperor Yi, you're the one who doesn't understand the situation. You might be a dragon heirs, but you only have the quintessence godhood of an overgod. You don't have a single drop of overgod power or an overgod weapon. How can you compete with my young master? A wise man submits to circumstances. If you want to gain a foothold, you have to submit to an overgod holy land. My young master thinks highly of you, which is why he told me to persuade you to submit. If you don't listen, the next time you come, it won't be us. The Iron Force King laughed wildly. In this era, everything depended on one's heritage. The more heritage the ancestors had, the more powerful they would be. These people with family heritages had an advantage over Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi clenched his fist. He was infuriated. Now, he had lost in terms of foundation. Without the supreme divine power, it was possible for him to destroy any of the heirs of the supreme gods with his individual combat ability. However, once the other party used all his trump cards, it would be enough to destroy the Kuang sect 10 times over. Just then, 4 terrifying auras appeared in the Owl Dragon region. They locked onto the Iron Force King and the other experts. The killing intent made their hair stand on end. They all turned around. Li Feng and the others came with weapons. Their killing intent soared to the sky. Clap, clap. Zixin clapped and sneered. The Karma Holy Land is really arrogant. You want to subdue an over-god heirs? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? The Iron Force King's pupils shrank. He recognized Zixian as a descendant of the Purple Emperor and an over-god heirs. As for Jiang Jingtian and Li Feng, they were probably not much weaker than Zixian. The Iron Force King was shocked. He thought that they were here to subdue the Guangzhong sect. He reminded, "Everyone, let's mind our own business. We saw the Guangzhong sect first. If there's anything, you can discuss it with my young master." "Who is your young master? Here?" Violet Immortal stared at the Iron Force King with a pair of soul-stirring eyes. "Our young master is Martial King Ji Tianxian, the mighty successor of the Overgod of Karma. He has long since reached the minor level of mastery in the Grand Tao of Karma, and his Overgod spark has already been successfully condensed. It is only a matter of time before he becomes an Overgod," the Iron Force King said proudly. "What a domineering name! What courage!" How many people in the Primal Chaos era managed to condense a supreme godhead, but in the end, weren't they all destroyed by the lightning tribulation? Not even their corpses were left behind. They all believed that becoming a supreme god was something that was set in stone. In the end, they all died. "Don't you think that using this to scare me is a bit too childish?" Violet Immortal asked disdainfully. "No need to talk nonsense with this group of trash. Kill them, and their masters will naturally appear." Li Feng was too lazy to talk nonsense. He unsheathed his divine sword and attacked. Sword Chi sword, piercing through the Owl Dragon region and nailing an expert to the Death Star. The corpse was torn apart and dyed the sky red. Clang! 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 The four experts attacked at the same time. Jiang Jingtian fused with the baby Qilin and stabbed the body of a overgod with his spear. Even the overgod godhead couldn't escape. Clang! Emperor Yi seized the opportunity and rushed into the sky to stop Iron Force King. The huge primal chaos dragon's body covered the sky and sent Iron Force King flying with a swipe of his tail. He returned to his original form in the blink of an eye. Holding a divine zither, he played the zither, causing the world to wail. A soul attack blasted into Iron Force King's sea of consciousness. Buzz! Iron Force King's body trembled as he lost control of his soul. Di Longtian rushed from behind and suppressed him. With the four experts attacking, the people of Insane School were no longer afraid of the expert hiding in the Owl Dragon region. They all rushed out, blocking one expert each, and started a brutal massacre. Emperor Yi played the zither, and the tragic melody affected the blood of the experts. The group of experts almost couldn't control their bodies. Their skin cracked and blood stained their bodies. They couldn't resist and were killed by the people of Insane School. After stabilizing the situation, Emperor Yi didn't attack anymore. Instead, he soared into the sky and played the zither. His voice spread out, searching for the expert hiding in the Owl Dragon region. Chapter 1048. Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and Zixian were all top-notch battle-type existences. They attacked the enemy with absolute superiority, and more than half of the 40 experts were killed in the blink of an eye. Even their divine deity was shattered, and their souls couldn't escape either, dying miserably on the spot. The zither music was mighty. Strands of melody carried Emperor Ye's consciousness in all directions, looking for that top-tier monster. On Shao Dragon Planet, inside an inn, a young man stood on the balcony of the third floor. He looked like a god with a simple temperament. He emitted a thick godly aura. At first glance, one could tell that his bloodline was noble. At this moment, he was staring at the galaxy. His eyes flickered as he saw the battle in the depths of the galaxy clearly. When Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, and the others appeared, he had a bad feeling. However, he didn't expect those four to be in the same group as Guangzhong. He was the supreme god's son of Karma sacred land, but he wasn't the strongest. His brother, Martial King Ji Tianxin, was the strongest, while he was only the third-ranked god's son, Ji Tianling Kong. There were many supreme god's sons in a supreme sacred land, but there was only one who could truly become a talent and hope to compete for the position of supreme god. Ji Tianling Kong's fingertips tapped on the wood of the balcony. Karma Dao's mysteries were emitted, blocking the zither music and preventing Emperor Yi from discovering him. To be able to hide under Emperor Ye's nose for so long without being discovered, one could imagine that this person's strength wasn't second-rate, but first-rate. "Looks like I won't have a chance this time," Ji Tianling Kong muttered to himself. He couldn't even defeat Emperor Yi and needed others to pin him down. Now Zi Xian, Li Feng, and Jiang Jingtian had arrived. Once he was discovered, he might not even be able to escape unscathed. He hid until Emperor Yi gave up the chase. Then, he took advantage of the night to leave. Whoosh! Ji Tianling Kong left Shao Dragon region in a few flashes. His speed was extremely fast. It wasn't that Jiang Jingtian and the others didn't notice Ji Tianling Kong. They just ignored him and left because there was no need to chase him. Li Feng looked at Emperor Yi and said calmly, "Tell Brother Yi to stop him at the exit of the endless star system. There is no need to waste time chasing after him." Emperor Ye's mouth twitched. He knew that compared to these elites, what he lacked was not strength, but intelligence. Those who could be Yi Qinghan's opponents were all extremely cunning, especially when it came to playing tricks on others. They were all at the level of a divine bird. Soon, Emperor Yi contacted Yi Qinghan through the message talisman. Azura region, Azura sect. Yi Qinghan looked at the message sent by Emperor Yi and charged towards the entrance of the endless star system with his blade in hand. The entrance was not big, at most 100 meters wide. The two sides were sealed by stone tablets, just like a teleportation gate. Yi Qinghan wore the Azura mask and held the star saber in his arms. He leaned against the stone tablet on the left and waited for Ji Tianling Kong to appear. Crossing the entire endless star system wasted half of Ji Tianling Kong's time. When he reached the exit, it was already dawn. At this time, many people were already coming in and out. Many people looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. They didn't understand why the famous Azura king would come here and pose in such a flashy manner. Could it be to attract girls? Yi Qinghan's face hidden under the mask revealed a strange smile. He saw Ji Tianling Kong pretending to be a passerby and stepped towards the exit. His fingertips moved the hilt of his blade. Screech! The sound of the blade alerted everyone, including Ji Tianling Kong. His killing intent soared to the sky. Only then did everyone realize why the Azura king was blocking the exit. They all fled. Ji Tianling Kong stopped and stared at Yi Qinghan. He didn't make a move and instead waited for the crowd to disperse. "Azura king, this seat has been looking for you for a long time. I didn't think you would take the initiative to come to me today." Ji Tianling Kong's aura erupted and pressed down on Yi Qinghan. The entrance was suddenly empty. Yi Qinghan stood up straight and looked at Ji Tianling Kong. "Why are you looking for me?" "Naturally, it's to make you submit to my karma holy ground. Azura king, a wise man submits to circumstances. This is the era of the holy ground. If you want to develop, you must submit to a holy ground. I represent my race and extend a hand of friendship to you. I hope you will cherish it," Ji Tianling Kong said domineeringly. "I want to agree, but some existences don't want me to." Yi Qinghan sneered and walked towards Ji Tianling Kong. "Who doesn't want to agree? Let this seat handle it." Ji Tianling Kong still couldn't tell that Yi Qinghan was mocking him and asked seriously. This kind of holy ground that appeared for the first time had simple thoughts. They believed in the strong and didn't have so many empty words. To put it bluntly, they were just a bunch of idiots. But when they fought among their own race, they were much more ruthless. For example, my fist. It wants to see if your bones are harder than mine. Yi Qinghan's tone suddenly changed. His figure turned into a beam of light. His left hand held the blade while his right fist collapsed the void. The space distorted, making it impossible to dodge. Ji Tianlingkong was furious. How could he allow the people of this world to blaspheme his noble bloodline? He only put the noble bloodline in his eyes. Others, be it physical strength or combat strength, were nothing in his eyes. Therefore, Ji Tianlingkong twisted his waist and his 5 claws tore apart the distorted space, grabbing at Yi Qinghan's fist. Boom! 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 The void continued to collapse, and the space at the entrance became very unstable. Black vortexes appeared and devoured everything, but they couldn't swallow the two. Yi Qinghan's iron fist turned into a palm. He gently spun and grabbed Ji Tianlingkong's 5 claws, twisting them out of shape. Gotcha! Ji Tianlingkong's face twisted. He lifted his leg and kicked at Yi Qinghan's abdomen, wanting to break free from Yi Qinghan's iron grip. However, Yi Qinghan's reaction was faster. The moment he lifted his leg, Yi Qinghan kicked his ankle. Boom! Ji Tianlingkong didn't have time to use his Dao Karma and didn't have time to use any of his abilities. His ankle was broken by Yi Qinghan's kick. Moreover, Yi Qinghan's attack had just begun. He exerted force and broke Ji Tianlingkong's wrist. Then, his right elbow suddenly struck Ji Tianlingkong's neck. Bang! Ji Tianlingkong's head sank. He didn't dare to resist and lost his balance. His head slammed into the ground. You don't even know who I am, yet you dare try to subdue me? Is it because of your bloodline that you're so brainless? Yi Qinghan disdainfully raised his foot and stomped down on Ji Tianlingkong's head. Ji Tianlingkong couldn't move at all. His life and death were in Yi Qinghan's hands. Ah! Ji Tianlingkong screamed. His head was about to be deformed by Yi Qinghan's stomp. If Yi Qinghan exerted force, the godhood in his skull would be crushed. Sensing the aura of death, Ji Tianling didn't even have time to use his supreme divine power. Fellow Taoist, please have mercy. It's a misunderstanding. Don't worry. I'll be merciful. I'll gently raise my foot and stomp down hard. I'll beat you so hard your parents won't recognize you. Yi Qinghan did as he said. He raised his foot and used the 1-inch strike to kick Ji Tianlingkong in the chest, sending him flying 100 meters and slamming him into the stone steel. Boom! Pop! Ji Tianlingkong's soul froze, and his organs nearly shattered. He coughed up blood and tried to stand up, but failed. Chapter 1049. Ji Tianlingkong almost lost his breath from this gentle kick. Tears flowed out of his eyes, and his face contorted into a hideous grimace. Yi Qinghan's figure flickered and appeared in front of Ji Tianlingkong. He grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. His eyes under the mask were even more oppressive than the supreme bloodline, destroying Ji Tianlingkong's resistance. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but rather that Yi Qinghan was too strong. He had chosen the wrong method of battle, and he was courting death by competing with Yi Qinghan in terms of physical strength. Even a peak god from the primal chaos era wouldn't be able to beat Yi Qinghan in terms of physical strength. The only ones who could match him in terms of physical strength were the great desolate beasts and the serpent. Hiss! Ji Tianlingkong's legs trembled. His throat was choked and he couldn't make a sound. He could only hiss to express his fear and plead. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with killing intent and coldness. He said in a hoarse voice, "I'll give you 10 breaths of time to persuade me not to kill you. If you can satisfy me with one condition, I'll spare your life. If you can't satisfy me with a single condition, then I'm sorry, but your status as the karma paramount son of God cannot save you." Next, Yi Qinghan released Ji Tianling Kong's neck. Ji Tianling Kong fell to the ground, and before he could get up, he was stepped on by a foot. Yi Qinghan looked down at Ji Tianling Kong from above. Ji Tianling Kong was thoroughly frightened by Yi Qinghan's killing intent. His eyes were too merciless, too cruel, and the will in them was enough to split the sky. My brother is the martial king Ji Tianxin. His paramount godhead has already formed. You? Ji Tianling Kong wanted to scare Yi Qinghan, but the coldness in Yi Qinghan's eyes almost froze him. He didn't dare to say anything else. I don't like talking to people with mental problems. Do you think I would care about martial king Ji Tianxin? Yi Qinghan said coldly. Even if Devilly was in front of me right now, I could beat him until his parents wouldn't recognize him. As for your brother, if he was already a paramount god, he could summon me to have an audience with him right now. Unfortunately, he's not a paramount god. Who does he think he is in front of me? There were only a handful of people in the Chaosverse who dared to call martial king Ji Tianxin a nobody. Even Mo Li, a great demon god's successor, had to give Yi Qinghan some face in the hopes of forming a good relationship with him, let alone others. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan was not one of them. The corner of Ji Tianling's mouth twitched. He was left speechless. Yi Qinghan calmly said, "You still have 7 breaths of time. This might be the last of your life. If you have nothing that attracts me, then open your eyes wide and take a good look at this world." Ji Tianling sucked in a breath of cold air and quickly said, "I have a sacred art here, no need. You still have 6 breaths of time." Yi Qinghan coldly refused. Now that he had the Great Desolation Steel, there was no need for him to learn other sacred arts. If he had the time, he might as well study the Great Desolation Tao scripture. I have a giant god-class divine herb. Ji Tianling grew anxious. He no longer dared to challenge Yi Qinghan's patience. Yi Qinghan stood up slightly and raised his hand to grab the star saber's hilt. With a hoarse voice, he said, "It seems you don't want to live anymore. What exactly do you want? Tell me. As long as I have it." Ji Tianling's blood froze. He was so frightened by Yi Qinghan's aura that his soul almost stopped working. 5 breaths of time. Ji Tianling's hair stood on end. He looked at Frenzied Blade, which was already unsheathed, and his hair stood on end. 4 breaths of time. Hua! The star saber was completely unsheathed, ready to strike at any moment. My yin-yang ring. There's a drop of paramount god power. It's very pure. Please take it away. Don't kill me. Ji Tianling pleaded in panic. It seems like you cherish your life. I like to communicate with smart people. Yi Qinghan slowly squatted down and placed his saber on Ji Tianling's head. His large hand lightly patted Ji Tianling's handsome face. He smiled evilly and said, "I've seen everything in my life, but I've never seen an paramount god or paramount god power. Take it out. I'll trade it for your life. Remember, don't be stubborn with me. I like to play with stubborn people. I can play with you until you can't find north." Yi Qinghan coldly reminded. Ji Tianling didn't dare to play any tricks. He couldn't even use the paramount god power to take Yi Qinghan down with him. Yi Qinghan wouldn't give him the chance to use the paramount god power. His fingertips trembled as he summoned a jade bottle from his yin-yang ring. Inside it was a drop of liquid energy. It was like a jewel radiating divine light. The jade bottle's material was very precious, but it could still emit the paramount god power, causing the entire Azura region to fall into a deathly silence. Hua! The paramount god power was vast and mighty, reaching the clouds. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up as he reached out and caught the jade bottle. He confirmed that this was the power of a supreme god. As long as he activated this power, he would be able to destroy the entire Azura region. Apart from the supreme gods and the great desolate beasts, no one would be able to escape. Good stuff. You gave me such a treasure. Your karma Holy Land won't punish you, right? Yi Qinghan pretended to be a good person and asked. Ji Tianling was almost angered to death. This was a typical case of taking advantage of others and still acting innocent. He cursed in his heart, F***ck, my paramount god power was stolen. How can I not be punished? Can you return the supreme divine power to me? You're so fake that it makes me want to vomit. Yi Qinghan sighed and solemnly vowed, Ai, you're a paramount god's son. How can you be punished? I'm thinking too much. You can go back. In the future, come to the Azura region to play. As long as you abide by the rules of Azura, I'll still welcome you. If you're bullied, come find me. As long as it's within my power, I'll help you beat them back. Ji Tianling frowned, but he didn't dare to refute. This guy was too strong, even stronger than the majority of the godsons. Fighting him was simply courting death. Can I go now? Ji Tianling helplessly asked. And then, if you don't want to go, you can follow me to the Azura sect to drink some spirit tea. Yi Qinghan put away the jade bottle. He was in a good mood and reached out to pull Ji Tianling along. Ji Tianling was so scared that his face turned pale. He crawled up and ran, not daring to look back. Yi Qinghan looked at the fleeing Ji Tianling and smiled without saying a word. Right now, the Azura region and insane sect didn't have much of a foundation. Even if Ji Tianling didn't take out the paramount godson, Yi Qinghan wouldn't dare to kill a godson of a paramount holy land. If a paramount holy land was angered and used the paramount god's power, they would be crushed into pieces by the endless star system and the Azura region. They weren't even on the same level. Now that he had inadvertently obtained a drop of paramount god's power, it would become the strongest foundation of the Azura region. I wonder how powerful this paramount god's power is. Should I dilute it a little to test its power? Yi Qinghan happily walked towards the Azura sect. The news of Ji Tianling's defeat quickly spread through most of the elite powerhouses' circles. The Azura king's name was once again resounded, intimidating some of the powerful families. Ji Tianling didn't dare to say that he had lost the paramount god's power, so the news of the Azura king's paramount god's power hadn't spread. Once it did, those who had designs on the Azura region would stop. Chapter 1050. Gradually, many unfamiliar forces appeared in the Chaosverse. Soon, the original division of the Chaosverse was broken. The Auction House Alliance and the Vast Ocean Alliance fell apart. Only the two great factions still stood proudly. The Azura Realm and the Proud Sect were still standing. Many forces set their sights on these two factions. As long as they destroyed the Insane Sect and took over the Azura region, the Myriad Law region could be easily taken over. Those small sects would also be taken over. However, Emperor Yi and the Azura King were not easy to deal with. The name of the Azura King intimidated some people, but the true experts would not be intimidated by the Azura King. Yi Qinghan guarded the Azura region alone. He comprehended the Great Wasteland's steel while bitterly cultivating the Great Desolation Tao scripture. However, the Great Desolation Tao scripture was too difficult to understand. It was like a heavenly book. Even with the help of the Great Wasteland steel, he still could not understand it. His mind was in a mess. Looking at the Great Wasteland steel in front of him, Yi Qinghan fell into silence. There were many things that he did not understand. Am I the Lord of Desolation? Who is this Lord of Desolation? Who killed such a powerful Lord of Desolation and forced him to reincarnate? If I am the Lord of Desolation, it means that the concept of hell reincarnation is not fabricated, but real. Yi Qinghan secretly pondered. These things shrouded his mind like a fog that did not disperse for a long time. Desolation was the beginning of all things. It was formless and traceless. It could create and destroy all things. Desolation was also nothingness and real. The The sea had a shore, the mountain had a peak, and the sky had a border. However, desolation was limitless. To be able to control the power of desolation, how abnormal was this person? Yi Qinghan felt that the Lord of Desolation was AF** King Genius. He stroked the great wasteland's steel, and his consciousness could slowly fuse with the textures on the steel. Following the textures, he seemed to see a void. Everything was in a state of desolation. There was no universe, no great Tao, and no laws. The power of desolation could destroy endless mountains and rivers in an instant. Although the power of desolates was vague, like the wordless heavenly book, Yi Qinghan had a feeling in his heart that he had once grasped this terrifying power. Now, he was only a thin layer away from grasping the power of desolate. It would shatter with a touch. That clear and vague feeling drove him crazy. He wanted to break that thin layer, but that thin layer was as unshakable as an over-god weapon. At this moment, just as Yi Qinghan was about to fuse with the Great Wasteland's steel, a message suddenly came from the Great Wasteland's steel. It was extremely clear and definitely not an illusion. The Tao is boundless. The heavens are the shore, and I am the peak of the great wilderness. Breaking through the heavens and fighting the 9 realms, it was difficult to escape from the affairs of the mortal world. 8,000 years of cultivation were all buried in dust in a single day. 9 reincarnations to search for the great Tao, but the path of life is still boundless. Suddenly, he felt that the great wasteland's steel was alive and had a soul. While Yi Qinghan was in a daze, his soul was directly pushed out by the great wasteland's steel. His body trembled and he fell more than 10 meters away. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank and he took a deep breath. The few sentences that came from the great wasteland's steel had shocked him. The first 3 sentences were incomparably domineering, as if they were looking down on all living things. The last few sentences were so pessimistic, as if they could not see the path ahead. Just what is it that has made the Lord of Desolates so desperate? The Lord of a realm, the creator god of the great wasteland's domain, can't see the path of life. Yi Qinghan thought back to the secret history of the primal chaos. He guessed that the war between the 2 camps back then was not for the sake of controlling the heavenly Tao, but for the sake of the Lord of Desolates. It was just that in this era, they had already forgotten the original purpose of the war. Of course, this was just a guess. Perhaps the 21 supreme gods had been infiltrated by the enemies of the outside world and were killing each other, leaving the Lord of Desolates powerless to resist. Yi Qinghan looked at the Great Wasteland's steel. The Great Wasteland's steel had returned to normal, but he could feel that it was more compatible with him. With a wave of his hand, the Great Wasteland's steel returned to his forehead and entered his sea of consciousness. Dong dong dong. At that moment, there were several hurried knocks on the door of the seclusion room. Yi Qinghan remembered that he had blocked the transmission talisman. He opened the door and saw that it was Grand Monarch Shura. Yi Qinghan was very surprised. Grand Monarch Shura would not disturb his cultivation for no reason, so he asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong?" "Junior sister is looking for you. It seems to be because the sorcerer tribe cut off the sorcerer's origin and re-established the sorcerer god ceremony. The sorcerer tribe's patriarch, Wu Yi, personally went to invite you. Junior sister couldn't contact you, so she asked me to call you back," Grand Monarch Shura said calmly. Yi Qinghan nodded. With a wave of his hand, a round bottle of divine power appeared. It exuded a strong supreme divine power, and was wrapped in a special power that prevented it from being released. "Senior brother, this is supreme divine power. I diluted it 1,000 times and wrapped it in my power. You can use it. This is for your survival." There are 10 drops in total, which is equivalent to 10 attacks from a peak giant god. It's enough for you. Leave the Azura domain to me for now. I'll go back and see what the sorcerer tribe is up to. Grand Monarch Shura did not refuse and reached out to take it. Yi Qinghan quietly left the Azura domain and entered the endless star system. He merged with the Chaos Beast, drew an aurora, and passed through a small star system in an instant. In just 2 hours, he appeared in the Owl Dragon domain. His speed was frighteningly fast, at least 2 or 3 times faster than Ji Tianling. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan turned around and entered the Owl Warstar. Inside the wild faction on the Owl Warstar, Emperor Yi and Medusa were sitting together. Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Dong Qin, Gu Qingyu, Zixian, and others were sitting around them. A middle-aged man in his 50s sat opposite them. He was very dignified and had a strong aura of superiority. However, at the moment, he was very reserved. He was the current chief of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Yi. Lord Emperor Yi, after the ancestor came out of seclusion and learned that Wu Jiang attacked the wild faction, he was very angry. He wanted to cut off Wu Jiang's origin in public and establish the 6th sorcerer god. Now that he is angry, you must give him face. I also hope that Taoist Yi Qinghan can come back and talk to the ancestor face to face. After all, Wu Jiang's decision does not represent the sorcerer tribe's decision. Wu Yi smiled bitterly. I've already sent a message. It's better for you to talk to him directly. He will make the decision for the wild faction, Emperor Yi said calmly. Wu Yi had no choice but to wait. If this matter was not handled well, not only would Wu Jiang be in trouble, but he, the chief, would also be in trouble. In the past, the chief had a lot of power. Even the Supreme Elder could only restrain him and not order him around. Now, with the appearance of the 2nd sorcerer god, everyone had to step aside. At this moment, Yi Qinghan appeared in the main hall of the wild faction. His aura was restrained and there was no fluctuation of divine power. It was as if he had not recovered his origin. He looked at Wu Yi without any emotion in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. I am the chief of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Yi. Greetings, Taoist Yi. Wu Yi saw Yi Qinghan appear and quickly got up to greet him. The famous chief of the sorcerer tribe is bowing to me, a person whose martial origin is broken. I am honored, Yi Qinghan said coldly. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.